You are about to opt in to Monerotopia, a show for the Monero community where all are welcome to join. From noob to maxi, no matter what bags you hold. Just sit back and relax to the sweet sounds of Monero's latest progress. Or if you're feeling inspired, join us on stage. Remember, the only thing that can stop Monero is a false belief that it can be stopped. And if you want to win the revolution faster, we recommend you remove your XMR from all custodial exchanges immediately. Warning, voting accidents are common around here. Don't forget to properly secure your private keys. Monerotopia starts now.
All right. What's going on? Good morning. Good morning. I'm tweeting out right now.
All right.
Hold up. Just getting the word out. What's going on, guys?
Price pumps, bro. Price pumps.
It's a good week. It's a very
we finally got a little bit of a price pump. Oh
and now it's going to stay at 200 for the next 2 or 3 years.
Monero is like the blue balls. The blue balls of crypto is Monero. It really is. Delayed gratification to the max.
Did you say the blue balls? Monero's had blue balls for like 2 years now.
It's the blue balls of crypto for sure. If you want some blue balls, grab some Monero.
Every other time there was a major pump, Monero didn't really do anything except for this time. Finally, it moved a little bit relatively, but it still moved.
I'm still waiting. We need to see a mega. We need to see Monero get slingshotted back into relevance with regard to the rest of the crypto sphere.
Yeah,
I do think it's
a
matter of time.
Would be nice. It'd feel good. Yeah. Hell, we'd have another Monerotopia like
popular
mid-year.
Shit.
Yeah, right.
And meme coin accounts talking about it.
Yeah, I saw some people like many users, like 500,000 users or something, just like kind of pumping it up.
Yeah, it's actually a big difference from the last bull market is that there's a lot more people that talk about Monero. There's a lot more people involved with it. The sentiment is better. It's kind of weird, you would think, well, there's more sentiment. There's more transactions every day. There's more people talking about it. And yet our price isn't really at those same levels. I mean, I guess we're kind of getting close, 201.
There's been a tremendous amount of disconnect between what we're seeing with the adoption and the price. I mean, it's undeniable. Like, hard to point to hard data, but you could, though. I mean, you could show the trend, the amount of transactions that are happening on places that accept crypto, with Monero versus Bitcoin and every other crypto, right? The amount of tweets that you're seeing out there. This show itself, I mean, there's just tons of, obviously, Monero transaction count. But I mean, there's a lot of evidence of very real world adoption, and yet Monero has been a complete laggard in terms of price. I think it's an undeniable disconnect, right? Am I dreaming this up? Am I just in my own little Monero?
No, I think your anecdotal experience is probably representative of what's actually going on.
Right? I mean, it's so blatant. Which why now though? What even caused that? How do you even cause a pump in Monero? Because it just seems like it's not pumpable. So what? You think somebody just made a big market buy on Kraken or something? What even? Because nobody's going on Havino and pumping the market. That you just can't do that. It wouldn't work that way. So how does Monero's price even pump? Is this coming basically from Kraken?
I mean, it was bound to happen at some point, most likely. There's all this new liquidity in crypto, and eventually some of that is going to make its way into Monero. Maybe it was just the moment for it to do that. I tend to think that much like gold's price pumps are managed by the cabal, Monero's price pumps are also probably managed by the cabal. So, there's probably some level of suppression, some level of, hey, try to keep it down for as long as possible. And then at some point, there's too much organic flows into Monero. From all the extra liquidity and all the gains that people are making, right? Shitcoin gains, etc. And then at some point they're like, okay, we've got to release, we've got to let this thing pump a little bit. And so I feel like it's likely that the cabal manages that. That's pretty speculative on my part. I couldn't point to hard evidence on that, but definitely seems that way.
Yeah, that's
It seems a lot more
extremely
clear in
speculative,
gold.
but it doesn't seem. It seems like it just does. It seems Monero's price action does seem odd compared to.
I mean, if I were those guys
organic.
and I was trying to manage Monero's price, that's exactly what I would do. And these guys have already shown that they have the propensity to do fractional reserve, to lie about the reserves, and to lie about the reasons why their withdrawals shut down. And they have the propensity to secretly coerce exchanges to remove Monero. So it's like that would be completely within their modus operandi. It would be completely within like the way that they operate and the way that they think. So like it's not that outlandish to suggest that they would do that. And we definitely have like a long history behind gold that suggests that they do that kind of thing. So
Right. We know that for a fact. Yeah, I mean, it did come in tandem with some like real world news that would likely affect a rational market. Like there was news that France was moving towards taxing unrealized capital gains, like in a very real way. Like there's like bills being put forward. It had like we saw what were some of the other things happening. I think for me that seemed like the trigger. If you wanted to associate it to something.
So we need to thank the French. Is that it?
I don't know. Yeah, let's see the stats on that. Is that where the buys are coming from?
Somehow I doubt it. You know, we've seen these kinds of news events for a long time. We had the attack on the crypto industry, on all the privacy protocols across the crypto industry.
We also saw the Tornado Cash positive ruling there for that. Like those I see as the two like bullish things, big picture wise.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is we've seen lots of news events over a long period of time. And any one of those news events, if it had happened near to a Monero pump, we would have said, oh, that was the news event. So it's kind of like in some cases, like in some cases I definitely do I want to look at news events and I want to analyze it. Typically, I don't typically want to look backwards and say what was the news event thing that caused this, or at least I don't necessarily want to assume that a news event caused something. It's possible that that could be a factor, but I'm not sure that in this case that would really be. I feel like we've had a lot of news events that are similar, and that none of those caused the pump. And then this only happened after, it was like 3 or 4 weeks after Bitcoin really started shooting for the moon, and it happened like a week after all the altcoins really started pumping. So it kind of happened concurrently with a bunch of other things that would seem to be probably more explanatory. So I would probably go.
It seemed like it was pretty in line, and the gains that it just made was fairly modest compared to everything else still.
Yeah.
But it made some, I guess, like over 20% if it was sitting around 160 still, which it was like a week ago. So
yeah, I think we
it's
were
like that meme with the stick.
Do something.
We wake up like 30%. So I mean, but yeah, compared to, bro, I'm looking at these other coins. Some of the stuff I have heard that people hold, and let's just say it that way, has gone up. 100%, 200, 300%. I think XRP
Ripple
is up like 5x.
Ripple, oh my god!
I thought that was dead, never to come back. And then they're
tied in. I think the guy, one of like Trump's people that he's like putting into is like associated with Ripple. I think.
Huh.
I had saw that in my
pro
research.
Crypto president. That's what you get.
Yeah, pro Ripple guy. Oh no. Yeah, I hear the banks are using it now. So.
Yeah, I'm sure.
That's been the meme since since Ripple first came out. The banks are using it, right?
Yeah, that was like I was always mildly shocked that all the crypto bros believed that, because it's like, which bank? Like some no-name bank serving, I don't know, Ghana.
Yeah, it's replacing Swift, because you need Ripple to replace. Like, why Ripple? Why does it need to be Ripple to replace Swift? What is it doing that's so Swift-like that
all
other cryptos can't do?
Partnerships. Even the word partnership doesn't mean anything in a corporate sense. It just means like we talk to each other and we work together. Okay, sure.
But what is crazy is that Roger Ver was one of the like founders of Ripple, right?
Yep.
Was he? I never heard that.
Yeah.
It would be unsurprising, but
I mean, he's I do think, I am kind of convinced they're going after him just to take his crypto away. It's more
No,
so
it's insane. It's psychopathic.
it's
to
more
the core.
that than anything else. They're just they have this guy who has a lot of crypto, and it's just a mafia coming to take it from him.
Yeah. I mean, he's in a lot of cases he does work against some of the narratives. Obviously, he put out Breaking Bitcoin, and then a month later they started attacking him.
Yeah, I mean that's a cool
completely-
story, but I don't think that's like I don't know, right? Like why? Because he was going to influence the masses to such a large degree that.
Yeah, that's kind of a good point. It does sound a little bit dubious. Maybe it was a factor, but I mean, it takes a long time to put a case together like that. So it's not like he. Well, then again, it's not like it was a surprise that he published the book. They would have known he was doing it.
Right. Yeah.
But
I think it was a long time coming,
Yeah.
And
you know what they might
hopefully
part of it
we don't-
might be the psychological impact. So let's say they could have brought the case like 7 years ago, or like within a few years of him leaving, but they didn't.
Right.
They just let him. They let him
Let the
continue
value
for a period of
of
time so that
Bitcoin go.
everyone would be like, "Oh my god, if I do a bad thing, if I do naughty things on my tax returns, then they could still come after me even 10 years later." They
Right,
want to produce
right.
maximum fear.
Exactly. Free Roger.
Maybe with the book, maybe that was a factor in the timing, just to the extent that they're like, if you want to talk against, Bitcoin, our holy state-sponsored ETF or whatever, like if you want to do that and you want to release a book about it, we're going to attack you for your speech. Like in a lot of cases, like these guys somewhat openly, like covertly, but not so covertly, kind of obviously attack people for reasons that are definitely unlawful, illegal, but they do it on purpose because they want you to know, like, hey, we are going to go after you for your speech. We want you to think that, so you better shut the fuck up, bro. Like,
No, I think they're able to take advantage of him further because he's an expat, right?
Well, in what way?
I mean, he's not a U.S. citizen anymore. He rescinded his U.S. citizenship, so he doesn't have the
But I mean,
U.S.
like, in what
rights.
way? In what way can they take advantage of him as an expat that they wouldn't as a U.S. citizen?
I mean, realistically, none. I mean, but in the sense
theoretically,
of
he should
easier,
have
it's theoretically
more
it's easier for
constitutional
them.
rights.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Theoretically, you should have, be protected by the First Amendment as a U.S. citizen, but now he doesn't have that technically because he's
The
not.
Fourth. This is really like
In the Fourth, yeah.
It's definitely a major flagrant violation of the Fourth.
Well, at least you
And
can
then
still
just-
enter the country illegally and have a gun. Have a legal gun. Per the did y'all see the court ruling like 6 months ago?
Yeah.
The
Wait,
Supreme Court
what?
upheld the rights of illegal immigrants to have a firearm.
Interesting.
Yeah. Everyone.
Well,
was pissed off
it
about
sounds
The
like
left was pissed
a win
off.
for the Second Amendment, though, right? I mean, Jesus.
I mean, I don't need a license where I live. Everything I can buy a gun on paper, or not on paper, just like I can buy a gun privately, and I don't have to register it, and I don't need a license or anything to carry. So,
Guys,
That's good.
send your super chats to XM. I see a lot of chats coming in, which is nice, but send them as Monero chats. Go to XMRChat.com/Monerotopia should work. We set up a Monerotopia one. I think it's connected to this right now. I hope.
Put it in the-
XMRChat.com/Monerotopia. You don't have to send dollars. Nice if you do. We appreciate it. All money raised, I'll put back into XMRChat.com development. We got a lot of ideas brewing with that. But yeah, you can send a couple of cents. Let's get the transaction count going.
Are we on?
I want this show to eventually affect Monero's transaction count when we're live on air. There's the chats flowing in.
Are we on XMRChat.com/Monerotopia or Monerotalk?
Monerotopia should. I hope we just created it during Monerotopia. That was a whole mess, but it should be working now. The issue we were having at the conference was we weren't live, so that was causing the issue. We were on StreamYard, but we weren't we weren't streaming live on YouTube and Twitter, right? Because we wanted to keep it a private stream because people bought the virtual tickets. So because of that, it was hard to have XMRChat going, to have it running on StreamYard without also being live because it runs through Twitch. So it was like a whole thing.
That's lowercase Monerotopia, guys.
Yes. Did it work? Somebody send one. Let's see if it's...
I went to uppercase Monerotopia and I got the 404. Might be a good idea to
oh shit,
to direct the uppercase Monerotopia, to the same as the lowercase.
That's a little weird.
UX. Wait for xmrchat.com/Monerotopia.
Yeah. If you go to xmrchat.com and you type in capital M Monerotopia, it's going to give you the 404.
I don't know. Redirect it for me. Maybe you have strict settings on your browser.
I might. I'm on Google.
Grey Wolf. Oh,
I'll tell Fiat demise anyway.
Looks fine from a normie browser.
Okay.
Somebody send one just so we know.
I didn't know it was possible for. Anyways.
Oh, you know what? I think it's because I'm already on that page. If I open a new one, then I try to type in capital M. Yeah, it gives me 404. You're right.
Should be a simple fix.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm telling Fiat right now. Wow, we're at 167 live viewers. Guys, like, retweet. A lot of people are, the normies are into crypto right now. They're on X. They keep refreshing. They want to hear about Ripple. So they want to hear about Hawktaw. Like, oh my God. That was a whole
yeah.
Like I thought we already peaked with like the idiocracy, but I think there's still some room to go there, apparently.
Can we somehow usurp the Ripple user base because it's similar XMR, XRP?
Yeah, they'll just make mistakes and accidentally pump Monero. But no, I keep saying, right, we should be getting new viewers in here. Like retweet. There's a lot of people hanging out on X. I do think X works really nicely as a kind of free speech platform right now, better than anywhere else. I think that's why we get. Obviously, I know the way they're counting viewers is weird, but I think we have more potential to grow on X much more potential to grow on X than YouTube. As we do these
do we need to add a shitcoin segment to the price report? Is that what's happening here in the bear market? Okay, today we're going to cover Hawk2a coin, Ripple.
Hawk2a.
Yeah, that shit was hilarious, man. They well, maybe we'll
was that whole thing a psyop, Bawdy? Is the whole Hawk2a thing even her as a
oh, it's an industry plant, very obviously.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense for media her rise to fame. It was
yeah, it's the most inorganic thing ever. I mean, it's like that what was that guy that did that song earlier this year that went viral all of a sudden?
Oh yeah.
That was also incredibly inorganic industry plant.
Oh yeah,
really, you think so?
Oh yeah,
they offered him a big contract and turned it down. Offered him a big country music contract because he's so well viral. Captured the essence of that genre, but then he turned it down.
If that one felt because I felt like I was part of that one. I was when that came out, I was wow, this is amazing. Song's great. I could see why it had the momentum there from the people. This one, it was just all right. It's there's a million funny, stupid things like that happen every day on the internet. Why was her statement so amazing? It just showed where we're at as society. Imagine her parents.
I know. This is
so. Wait, why are you famous again? Well,
what does Hawk2 mean?
Oh,
my beautiful daughter. What does this mean?
I chalked it up to just excessive simpage or something. Thirsty guys or something like that. I figured, well, kind of disappointed in America, but yeah, I mean, maybe she was a plant or something. Who knows?
Yeah, because it's normalizing that degeneracy, right? So that would what would be the reason for the plant, right? It's just to make the U.S. even more degenerate. It's changing the culture in a negative way, where it's it's okay to be a 20-year-old chick and to get famous for talking about giving guys blowjobs.
Well, now she's infamous Now she's infamous.
No, but they
That's
played
her.
it off like she was like a hero. Like, hey, hey, come to my event.
No, I mean, now she's infamous because she rugged all of her followers.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, Hawk2a coin was like 500,000 or $500 million market cap, and within minutes they just rugged everything. They didn't even, what's weird is they didn't even maximize their potential gains from that. If they had just sold a little bit at a time and a little bit at the time and sort of kept up the hype, they could have had quite a lot more volume buying. So it's kind of weird.
Yeah,
They almost shot themselves in the foot.
Right. They could
So
have
maybe
milked
she
that
did
a
get
little bit.
scammed. It's hard to say.
She probably got scammed. Yeah.
I mean, if she's an industry plant, then it was like on purpose. If she's not an industry plant, then she probably got scammed. They used her.
Greetings from the Xano team. Another big pump. This one with fundamentals, of course. Yeah, I'm sure Bawdy will touch upon the Xano pump as well.
Yeah, should we go ahead and jump into the price report?
That was my other prediction for Monerotopia that Xano would hit. I think I had said $9 or something. And everybody's like, no way. Yeah, I was just a couple of weeks off.
Just a couple weeks off.
Ever the optimist.
The optimism is paying off finally.
Optimism finally struck.
He's almost run out of optimism, but he got some more back. Now that it's been returned to him.
Even a broken clock is correct twice a day.
Twice a bull market.
Exactly. All right, buddy. Yeah, let's on that note, why don't we take it away with the price report?
Cool.
The Monerotopia Price Report segment is sponsored by Exolix, a privacy-focused, non-custodial instant crypto exchange. Go to exolix.com to enjoy secure and completely anonymous swaps with no KYC or sign-up. Swap between Monero and 2,000 plus assets at the most competitive rates and with no limits. Exolix.com, your fast and secure way to privacy.
GM again.
Good morning. I still don't see any XMR chats coming in. Guys, give it a test. Send in xmrchat.com/Monerotopia.
You know, it would help
please.
if there was a date. If there was like a date and a time. Because when I'm on here, I'm looking at the XMR chats, but I don't see dates and time. So I don't know. In some cases, I don't know if we've missed one or if it's an old one.
That's a good point. Date and time. I like that. I will add that as well. Somebody's asking, where is Sunita? Sunita is doing more important things right now. Family stuff. Good family stuff. Positive family stuff. She's focused on a family project right now.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. Yeah, take it away. Do your thing. I'm going to tell Fiat Demise about your ideas here for XMRChat.
Yeah, so congratulations to everybody. We broke out of the stablecoin range finally at long last.
Woo-hoo.
Yeah, let's see. Can we do a little? Hang on. Oh, I guess I had it muted. I was going to do a little sound effect, a little clappy clap. Anyways, yeah. So we pumped up to about 220. Maybe technically that would be 217. Interesting enough, this is again the power of the wave magic. You can see that where did we hit? We hit right smack dab in the middle of these upper standard deviations, right? The same standard deviations that were formed from the last bull market. So we're on the weekly candles right now. At the bottom, you can see that we have the volume. So this happened with volume buying on Kraken. Let's see, that would be 108,000 Monero. Yeah, so this week about 180,000 Monero were purchased on Kraken, looks like. So yeah, congratulations again, everybody. Let's go down to the daily and take a look at what this looks like. Currently, it looks like we're forming a little bit of consolidation, right? We pumped up there. And again, these blue lines, you can see them more clearly now. But these are the upper standard deviations right here. yeah, you can see these are the upper standard deviations. That's basically, we wicked right into those. Typically on bullish action and in bull markets, what you're going to expect is to actually, I feel like this bullish action per the chart, per technical analysis, this shouldn't be over yet. We should get in here for some period of time, maybe even kind of beat them. And then, we might require some kind of pullback after that before coming back to the upside. Obviously, that's going to depend on what's happening with the rest of the crypto market, if the bull run continues and for how long it might continue. At this point, I'll tell you about it a little bit later, but I really am entertaining the possibility that we get a blow off top much sooner than anyone expects. That's kind of what happened last cycle too. No one expected that April would be the top. And okay, it wasn't the perfect top, but once you take into account inflation and all the M2 money they printed, it kind of was the top, right? But that's, we'll quibble about that some other time. But yeah, I mean, we very, very cleanly finally broke out of this range that we had been in for such a long time. So yeah, that's pretty good. You can see on the shorter term, you could just barely see it. Maybe we could zoom in even more. You could just barely see that these standard deviation lines are starting to curl up. So that will also be good wave magic price action. Ultimately, we want to see them, kind of do this number. We might see the price kind of do this, right? And then sort of bounce around like that for a while. I would say most likely, guys, I would expect Monero to not really beat the 220 range, maybe the 230 range. I wouldn't expect it to really beat that by too much for some period of time here, probably for the rest of December, maybe even going into January. Just knowing the way that, price action has unfolded for Monero, and that it's, all the other shit coins, guys, they're pumping like 200%, 300%. And we've got like 30%. We're celebrating 30%. So, even just that, like, so let me paint a little picture to kind of show this wave magic, the standard deviation, multiple standard deviation concepts, and the overlapping bands. And I've told you guys this before. It's kind of a psychological map. In a way, I look at it, and it's sort of the intuitive statistics that the aggregate market is sort of computing in their brains. Because people intuitively know when something is trending. They even do these card tricks, not card tricks, but like they've done this experiment where they have a loaded deck, and in one case it's loaded slightly in your favor. Let's just say like 55% in your favor. And then the other deck, it's loaded slightly against you, like 45% against you. And you're playing with real money. And it's like, it's an experiment. And when the deck is loaded slightly against you, even after just like 5 cards or like 7 cards or some very small amount, your palms start to get sweaty. You start to show signs of stress. It actually comes across in all your physiological cues. And so your body, like your brain, already intuits that the deck is stacked against you. And so in aggregate, humans are very good statistical machines when you look at sort of the averages across everybody. And so for us, the point here is that for us, we're looking at these standard deviations, this kind of range-bound action that we've had for so long, right? For like 2 years now, we've just been basically range-bound, except for some really shitty drops below it because of, fuckery. And then we finally pumped outside of it. And so it's like, even though we only have a 30% pump, for us, that's huge because we've been so range-bound by these deviations for so long that even pumping only 30% for us feels like quite the pump. So that's just when we talk about these overlapping bands and why they're important, one of the big reasons is psychology and the way that psychology works in aggregate. So Monero's doing good. We've had a comeback on the little bit of a comeback on the ratio to Bitcoin. I wouldn't exactly call this good price action. It still doesn't look great, and any further pumps of Bitcoin are obviously gonna have a negative effect on this. At the moment, this chart still doesn't look good. Who knows? Maybe, right? I'm trying to predict the future here. I don't really know. Maybe Monero pumps immediately to like the next major level. I guess that could happen. Or maybe Bitcoin takes some long period of time to maybe it takes a long period of time to actually really start making new gains. Maybe it needs to consolidate more. We actually broke 100K as of, was it like Thursday maybe? I think it was Thursday. Let's check it out here. We actually broke 100K on, we're on the weekly. No wonder. Looking like an idiot here on stream. Oh, we're gonna take a look at the regression analysis as well. Yeah, so that would be Thursday. Okay, the coin finally broke 100K on Thursday, and we're basically sitting right at 100K at the moment. So, yeah, I mean, this thing still might need some time to consolidate. I don't know. Let's check Monero really quick, make sure we don't have anything else too important that needs to be covered. Monero versus gold, we kind of broke out of that range as well. The Monero versus gold chart, it actually looks pretty good. Like you would basically expect Monero to eventually make its way to this very large standard deviation band here at some point. So this chart looks bullish, although, you know, that's a single green dildo for the week. So we're on the weekly here. That's a single green dildo. Usually, typically with price action that's going to be sustainably bullish, you want to see like, okay, you want to see a big break, and then you want to see some consolidation, not for too long, and then you want to see another break and some consolidation, and you want to stair step your way up. That's the way to do it. When you see pumps that just go God candle to the moon, you know, in a lot of cases, that's just not going to be sustainable price action. Typically, sometimes it can be. Sometimes it's possible for that to happen if you're in a protracted, extended bull market, and you have all the right like pumpamental factors involved. But you know, I couldn't really tell you that Monero has the pumpamental factors involved. So let's divert here to the privacy coins really quick, and then we'll go take a look at Bitcoin and the rest of the crypto market. We can talk about Haktua and how she rugged her followers. So yeah, Xano finally broke out. You know, it had a little bit of consolidation. The rest of the crypto market was pumping for a period of time. But then, yeah, Xano, as of the past week, let's go backwards here. There we go. As of the past week, Xano has pumped 50%. So congratulations again to all those who have bought Xano here. And especially if you bought down here, I mean, holy shit, you know, that's a 5X. You can't complain about a 5X, right? If you put even a reasonably like small amount of your, like, let's suppose you put 2% of your net worth into Xano, that's 10% of your net worth now, right? Or of your net investable, we should call it. So that's, you know, this is what you're starting to get to the point in this chart where gains from here on out are just going to like really, really serve you in a big way. So, yeah, Xano's looking good, guys. Who knows how far this thing can run? Probably for a while. Let's see if I can give you any good wave magic levels. Got to go into the shorter time frames. Okay, yeah, to me, it looks like, I mean, it's hard to say, like when things really start pumping, wave magic can't help you anymore. When you get really, really, especially on a new coin like Xano, right? So Xano doesn't have a very large price history behind it. Like we could probably take a look at Ripple, and I can probably show you some pretty good wave magic levels on Ripple because it has had a long history where the price has been much higher in the past. So it's easy for us to sort of like look at particular levels. With Xano, it's, you know, it's a newer coin, so it's in this range. You can see the very top of the purple bands here. These purple bands are curling up. Typically, guys, what I would see on this kind of action is there's gonna be some level top out here, and then it's gonna have to come back down and tag like these purple bands or something like that. You know, it'll have to do that. But what you'll see is it'll continue to ride up. What I'm getting at is that you know, there might be a little bit of a long game to play here. Xano has had quite the pump as of the past few days. I'm not saying it's done pumping, but it could be time for a little bit of a pullback here. But I mean, ultimately, the problem is that if you want to play the pullbacks in a bull market, you often just get left behind, right? So just be careful about that when you're in a bull market and everything's pumping. You often get left behind. Typically, your better strategy is just to hodl until you're like, okay, I have made life-changing gains. It's time for me to take profit. In fact, you know what? Let's diverge here. I made a tweet. A few days ago, and it's basically to the effect that if you make life-changing money on this run, you need to get out. Go to, like, you don't have, there were commenters like, oh, fiat is just dying, bro. Okay, whatever, man. Then get into gold, buy a piece of property, pay off debt, right? Pay off your mortgage. Like, if you've made life-changing money that is actually going to change the way you live your life, change your quality of life, change your lifestyle, then you need to sell, because it is far greater. The pain of losing life-changing money is far greater than the pain of missing out on life-changing money times 2 or times 3, right? So that's like, it's just one of those things that I've done it. I have far too many friends that have done it. I'm going to show you the tweet here. Yeah, this is the tweet. I have far too many friends that have done it they had life-changing money in hand in their 20s, and they let it slip by because they got greedy. You know, they got euphoric and greedy, and they didn't sell. It's a very important lesson. There are some minor caveats that's like, okay, there's a time to sell, there's a time to not sell. In almost all cases, the time to sell is sooner than you think. And so this is kind of like the 80% metaphoric truth that hopefully will produce the right action. There will be cases where it's like you've made life-changing money, but the chart and the asset or whatever has more to run. And you're like, okay, I could sell now. This chart is very likely has more to run. That's a neutral assessment. It's not an emotional, euphoric greed kind of assessment. It's just like the most likely thing to happen. Okay. If you can truly say that you have made an emotionless decision about that and say, okay, this is likely to run higher and I have life-changing money in hand, but I can probably get a little bit more out of it. Okay. That's one thing. And certainly, you know, certainly I've done that. But just know that the more that you see people reacting negatively, like, okay, so if, let's just hypothetically say that I'm top calling and everyone in unison in Twitter is telling me that I'm a retard. That's great. That's what I want to hear, right? At the top, I want everyone to tell me that I'm wrong, because that's actually just yet another sign that's probably, you know, that's probably true. So anyways, it's a very long form way of just saying, if you make life-changing money, guys, get out. Trust me. You will,
Dude,
you will
that
thank
was
me
me
later.
in the stock market when I
Say
first
what?
got into it. I got into the stock market right out of high school, and I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I was listening to some guy, and he told me to buy. I bought a bunch of calls for like Nvidia, AMD, and they all made so much fucking money. Like they 2-3x'd. But I didn't pull out soon enough, and I lost most of it.
Yeah, but you could lose everything if you don't pull out soon enough.
Because as those calls
Sure.
get close to the expiry, they rapidly lose the value.
Yeah, things. I mean, it's a lesson that I think all of us kind of have to learn at least once. You know, it's like if that was you, don't feel bad. I did it. Most of my friends have done it. You do it the first time, and then you learn the time value of money. You're like, shit, when's the next opportunity that I'm going to get that's going to happen like this? You might have to wait 3, 4, 5 years in some cases. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's yeah, it's powerful, and it's just like
It wasn't
I think
even. I wouldn't say it was even life-changing money, but for me at the time, being as young as I was, it was a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, straight out of high school, you know. I mean, if you like, if it was enough money to buy a house or buy a condo straight out of high school, that's a big deal. That's a big fucking deal. All right, so we got Firo in front of us. Firo has actually pumped quite well as well. I don't know which of you bros are buying Firo, but you're up 50%, 60%. That looks pretty nice. We're sitting here at resistance. In fact, a lot of coins, even the altcoins, are kind of sitting at resistance. That doesn't mean they can't go higher, but I've noticed they've kind of trailed off as of the past few days. This is again exactly where you would expect to find some resistance at the upper standard deviations. In a way, you know, there's kind of all these blue bands that are really close to each other, so you might actually like put the circle like this. But at any rate, if you're sitting here in Firo and you see a wick, you know, into this area, I'm selling, right? Like if I'm holding Firo and I see a wick into this area, I'm selling. I'm saying, all right, that's good enough for now. If I want to hold this for a long term, you know, I would sell up here, and then I would think, okay, let's get a pullback to this area, maybe even to the moving average clusters, right? Those white bands there. Anyway, so yeah, that's Firo. Firo's doing good as well. Pirate Chain has had their pump. They actually kind of pumped early, and then they just kind of have trailed off here. Maybe they've got another opportunity coming up to smash up to the purple band here. Seems like a real possibility. That would be a 2x from where it is currently. Yeah, it's kind of weird to me seeing these coins. Firo, no one I don't know if anyone's really using Firo. I never even hear anyone talk about Firo, and yet they pumped 50%. And we, you know, got
Yeah, I think I own a
30%.
tiny amount of Firo. I don't even remember what it was supposed to do though.
Yeah, I don't remember either. I feel like they were kind of a research chain in a lot of ways. They were doing a lot of research, and it seemed like the guys were really truly dedicated to doing research, like cryptography research and trying to innovate. But it didn't feel like they were really dedicated towards making something that they wanted to really be taken seriously as money and geared as money. I don't know. Maybe they just didn't do enough marketing, or who knows. But yeah, I mean, there's no disrespect towards those guys, like I kind of have towards Zcash here, because they're the corporate coin or whatever. I mean, Zcash. Okay, so Zcash is pumped. Zcash made 130%. Like, okay, cool. Looks like this thing still has more
in terms
go.
of Furo, just to jump in for a second, yeah, they what they were doing that was interesting was they were kind of on the cutting edge with Seraphis, or I forget what their version of it was called, which Monero is no longer implementing. Right, we're implementing full chain membership proofs, but they were really on the cutting edge with that and some other kind of privacy tech.
What was it Spark?
Right, or Atlantis Spark, right, and it was worked on with, other, Monero people as well, and so the idea was that Monero was going to kind of be learning and borrowing that technology. So I think that's kind of where they were really popping up.
Let's see. Do we have any super chats? XMR chats we need to cover?
Oh yeah, that's another. I think. Guys, please send them to xmrchat.com/Monerotalk instead. I think that's the one that's connected. I apologize for confusing everybody.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to have to figure out how to easily switch back between the two. I don't know, Tux, do you know how to do that on the Twitch?
I don't have access to that.
Okay. Yeah, we'll figure it out moving forward. But for now, xmrchat.com/Monerotalk should be working and connected here.
Okay.
Apologies, guys, because I saw other people had sent to Monerotopia, but I can't pull them up live.
We have one here from Alaskanon that says, I hope people will take what Bawdy says, Bawdy is saying seriously about not getting greedy in these markets. Sometimes a person should take a little gains while climbing if they have already done well. Take small amounts off the table and use it to reduce your risk. Yeah, that's another way to do it. There's a lot of ways to do it. My personal strategy has basically been to hold, hodl, and then sell.
Well, here's a practical question though, Bawdy. Like how do I think I had asked you this in the past though, but it could be another good time to kind of give advice. How do you take your gains, right? Like, are you saying using it like in what exchanges, and are you moving into like a stable coin, or what's your advice there, right? Kind of like the how should people be taking the profits?
It depends on which platforms you're using, which coins you're holding, the kind of degeneracy you're participating in. I personally really, really like selling crypto directly into gold, right? We all want to put our money where our ideological mouth is. So going from crypto directly into gold is doable. There's quite a number of exchanges that allow you to do that. If you're holding an ERC20 or a TRC, like a Tron token or Sol or whatever, you might just sell directly into Tether. You can even sell into PaxG, right? PaxG is a gold-backed token that exists on top of Ethereum. You can hypothetically, play into some other coin. Obviously, you could just take those gains into Monero as well and say, hey, Monero has a more stable price. It does better in bear markets than the other coins have. So you could do that as well. I feel like there's a good reason to always have a hodl, right? Like I would pretty much never recommend selling all of your crypto. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying sell everything, particularly if you're playing in the shitcoin markets. If you're in XRP and you just got a 10x or whatever the hell it did, you should be thinking about taking profits. And the more responsible way is probably to take profits on the way up. One of the big things I say to people as well is if you have solid gains that aren't quite life-changing just yet, you might take your initial investment off the table times 2. Because if you take your initial investment off the table times 2 into anything, it doesn't matter, gold, stablecoin, fiat, right? You could sell through fiat. All of us have to spend fiat. Okay, you can live without it almost kind of if you buy gift cards, but then that's still basically kind of fiat. Anyways, the point is that, life comes at you and you need fiat. So there's no shame in selling crypto for fiat to live your life or to buy a house, right? To pay off your debt. All of these are the kinds of things that you could do with life-changing gains or changing gains, right? You get rid of your crippling debt, you pay off that mortgage, maybe you've got a high interest rate or something, and now you don't have a mortgage payment, right? Now you don't have to pay rent effectively, except for to the city for your property taxes, but you've just eliminated $1,000, $2,000 a month of expenses by paying off your mortgage. that's freedom. That is a level of freedom and enjoyment of your life that is going to noticeably impact your life, like in the coming years. So yeah, there's just I guess we're kind of getting stuck on this topic a little bit, but it really can't be understated. Bull market tops come at you in ways you don't expect, and they trap you. And the people that help to push these leveraged, massive parabolic pumps are also the same people that put the narratives out there that convince you that you don't want to sell, that convince you that 100K Christmas is coming soon, bro. Cool. 3 years later, they've been waiting 3 years, and these bros have had to learn the time value of money. So yeah, just really trying to impress that upon people. So thanks, Alaska, for your comment for tipping 0.0049 Monero. And then I'm going to go to the Monero talk one here. So I won't be able to read that are on the Monerotopia XMRChat. Okay. Have we read these? There's Hawk2a Girl, Just a Man. We should cover all these if we didn't get to them yet. What do you guys think?
Hawk2 is like a story in its own.
Yeah.
I don't really know anything about it. I just saw that it pumped for like a very incredibly short period of time, and it got rug pulled very fast.
Okay, I'll just read these. I don't think we've covered them. Bruce Lee's comment looks like that's an old one. Favorite edibles, Just a Man. Okay, so we'll start with the Hawk2a Girl comment. I don't know if you guys want to put that one up on the screen. Hawk2a Girl tipped 0.0052 XMR, and she says, I rugged investors on Hawk for 50 million, and people saw exactly what happened because it's an open ledger. Should have launched it on Xano, right? Hawk2a Girl could have completely rugged her investors, and all the people that helped her rug her investors or her followers. But it would have been harder to see on chain if only she had done it on Xano. Okay, and then we have the Maker.
Yeah, the problem is I can't bring it up on screen because it was through the Monero. So if you guys tip at xmrchat.com/Monerotalk, I should be able to bring it up on screen now.
These are the ones that are on Monero Talk.
Oh shit! So they're not coming up either.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry.
Actually, so I think we mentioned it slightly earlier in the show, but just to recap for the price report segment. So the Hawk2a Girl, look her up. We're not gonna reenact it here on stream. It'd be a little bit gay. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Anyways, just pull a Seinfeld reference. She gained notoriety in the. She was famous for her sexual comments, which were tantalizing, but also seems like there was a lot of penguin clapping among the simps for Hawk2a Girl. It was kind of weird, whatever. So she monetized that, leveraged it into Hawk2a coin, HAWK. Don't go buy it. I shouldn't even be shilling it. Anyway, so they launched and had like a $500 million market cap for like 2 minutes or something. And then they sold everything. Like they dumped like 80% of their supply onto the market and rugged everyone for like, it was only a few $1 million. That was the weird thing. If they had sold slowly and like kept up the hype and everything, like now is the opportunity for that. And they just completely just rugged in like the worst way possible. They didn't even maximize their own gains, which is weird to me. Like that's what I couldn't quite connect. Like what's going on there in the background, that they shot their own selves in the foot. They had probably a 10, maybe even a $50 million, actual rug pull. I didn't really look into the numbers, so maybe they got more than I realized. But it's regardless. When you're a founder and you're like Ripple and you slowly rug over the course of many years, you're going to make a lot more money than if you rug over the course of like many minutes, right? Anyway, so that's what happened with Hawk. Okay, the Maker 117 said, "Take my Monero. I look forward to smithing many items for the Monero community." No, sir. You take my Monero. I want some of your smithed items. Sounds cool, like a belt buckle. That would be pretty cool. Maybe, I don't know, a necklace or something. Okay, let's.
Did you see I have one more shit coin. Somebody created a Monerotopia on Ethereum.
Oh, good.
And it was, I think it was like Monero Bull and Crypto Bear.
I think that's a great idea, actually. I think that's really good marketing. releasing Monero shitcoins on Ethereum?
I know it's like an in and out, and what they want to do is they want to because like ETH gas fees are like retarded, right? They want to have an atomic swap between Monero and Monero-chan on Ethereum, and that's partially why they chose Ethereum, because atomic swap between Monero and Ethereum is possible, right?
Okay.
So it's actually kind of interesting.
100% support the project. Have they been on Monerotopia or Monero Talk? We should like have them on, pick their brain.
We needed an atomic swap between Monero and like a stable coin.
Yeah.
USDC.
Yeah.
Preferably the C and not the T, right?
I think what you mean to say is the alleged stable coins need an atomic swap into the real stable coin.
Correct.
Amen.
Stable coin no longer. We broke out finally.
It depegged
Yeah.
towards the upside.
Yeah, usually stable coins are depegging towards the downside. So
It's like, yeah.
all right. So I think we covered Pirate Chain, we covered Zcash. We didn't fully finish Zcash. So Zcash, I was gonna say that probably this is your level to shoot for, it's your target. Seems like it's
Yeah, what's the
taking a
deal
little
with this?
break with Zcash. What do you mean? Like they're pumping?
Yeah,
you
like
know? They only did 200% since the middle of September. Just a measly 200%. Yeah, so the corporate alleged privacy coin, is pumping. All right, cool, good for them, whatever. I mean, that's of course after they just have had a chart that was just death for just death for like 2 years. They were down like 5%. But anyways, yeah, you can see the blue bands up here. The upper standard deviations, right? This is the place to shoot for if you're holding Zcash. If you made a Zcash play, yeah, you probably want to tag, right here, somewhere around that lower boundary, that lower edge is where you would sell. Again, guys, don't get greedy. Like, if you're looking for places to sell and you're like, yeah, well, this looks like a spot, but I'm gonna set my order a little bit higher because I'm greedy. Bro, if you just made 200% gains, does it really fucking matter if you made 230% gains? It does not. So take your money. It's never wrong to take profit, unless you're taking it out of Monero. Then it's like actually it's morally atrocious to ever take profits on Monero. Quote me on that. Obviously, just kidding. Fuck, I hate having to say that on stream, because it's funnier if you just don't say you're joking. Anyways, okay, here's Bitcoin. Here's Daddy Coin, whatever. Bitcoin's doing good, broke 100,000 this week. We are now looking at the regression analysis. So the red line here is the upper price boundary. Guys, I really do believe that this is modeling a real economic phenomena. I think that this is a statistical modeling of something real that's taking us out there. It's like the leverage price, the maximum leverage fraud price, whatever, propped up price of Bitcoin. I think that's what's being modeled here. Let's go to the BLX chart. That's the full chart. So it's not that Bitcoin has to obey my statistics. It's that my statistics are revealing in the fuzzy, nebulous world of reality. I think that these statistics are identifying a real economic process at work. So as we approach this red line is when you DCA out of Bitcoin. That's really what you want to do.
Looks like the chats are working now, by the way, at
okay, I see.
XMRChat.com/Monerotalk.
Sojourner tipped 25 cents. Thanks for everything y'all do. Thanks for watching, Sojourner. Appreciate the tip. Yeah, so we've got Bitcoin here. We're about halfway in between the blue band. The blue line is basically the overall regression analysis. The blue line actually isn't as valid as I would like to. I can't really claim that one to be super duper valid. It's valid in a certain kind of way, but it's not clean. The upper boundary and the lower boundaries are pretty clean. The green line and the red line are fairly clean lines. The lower boundary, not quite as much. I had to make a couple arbitrary decisions that slightly affect it, but it doesn't majorly massively affect it. I have to recalculate the green line now because this was the bottom, right? That was the bottom. And this calculation, the green line does not include this data set right here, or the bottom point down there. So I'll need to recalculate that at some point. That will actually pull the green line slightly higher when I do. So the green line, the lower boundary of Bitcoin price will now be affected slightly more to the upside because we only came within I think it was 9% at the best here. That was like a 9% gap. But I mean, When you're talking about a process that goes up by 1,500% on a single run from bottom to top, getting within 10% of that boundary is phenomenal. It's incredible, guys. Like I can't, it's hard to overstate how incredible it is to be off by only 10% when you have a process that moved by 1,500% from bottom to top. So anyways, yeah, the thing is we want to start keeping this line in mind. We've now kind of reached that point where it's like, okay, it looks like Bitcoin is clearly in a bull market. Let's go to the monthly candles. One of the things I've said for a long time is that I won't consider Bitcoin to actually be in a bull market until we close 2 months above the previous all-time high. Well, here we are. Bitcoin is closed at least 1 month above the previous all-time high after languishing for like 7 months. Okay, you know, it happens. That's how price action works sometimes. We're in a bull market. I know the second month hasn't closed, but guys, it seems to me we're almost certainly bound for the upper boundary here. We're headed towards this red line. As far as I know, it could happen in January. With the way things are moving, I would almost expect this thing to hit that upper boundary in January, and that is sell territory. That is sell point. Like we just talked about earlier, you know, you probably have life-changing gains at that point. So let me see. Someone's asking for the link of this chart again. Let me show you. Let me show you something. If I can find it. Where do I need to go? Oh, Bitcoin had a flash crash. I almost forgot that. We have a lot to talk about, guys. I'm sorry. I feel if I'm dragging on too long, we don't have a guest this week, do we? So I could probably like drag on slightly longer than normal. But if not, you know.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you're good.
Cool. I mean, we're kind of taking our time. You know, we're just chit-chatting mostly. So if you go to Bawdyanarchist on TradingView, just search for Bawdyanarchist and go to my scripts, you can see the BTC USD regression price boundaries. You know what? I'll just grab this. I'll just copy the publication link and send it to you right here. All right, that's in the YouTube comments. So you can go there. You can add it to your charts. It's free. I also published the Z-scores. So last week, right after we got off the horn, I published the Z-scores. We won't, things are already long in the tooth already. We don't need to talk about exactly what Z-scores are, but effectively they are a statistical metric that tells you where is the price relative to the moving average, right? You're asking how many standard deviations away is the current price from the moving average. So a price on the Z-scores, a price of 0 means that the price is at the moving average. And there's multiple lines here because you would ask which moving average, right? So the orange line here is shorter term moving averages. The blue line is obviously a longer term moving average, which is why it moves slower. Z-scores, they behave a lot like RSI. So if you know how to use RSI, basically use similar concepts, divergence. Z-scores can help you identify when a market trend is happening or when a trend reversal is in progress. It also, you'll notice, look, this is a price of 0 and it kind of oscillates between, 2 and 4 or whatever. These are, again, this is standard deviation levels, but it's a different way of looking at it. And so what it helps you do, one thing that Z-scores help you do is normalize prices that have very different price levels. Like gold has a price of say 2,000 and Ripple has a price of like, I don't know, 50 cents or something, or 20 cents. So how are you going to compare Ripple and gold next to each other? You can divide them, sure. But if you want to overlay them, then you're going to have this problem where it's like, well, one is like a totally different price. You can look at their Z-scores. You can overlay their Z-scores because they both trend to 0. They both oscillate around the 0 point. So you can actually look at them at the same time. And that's actually taking a little break. That's actually what we do. These are all Z-scores right here. These are I believe they are the 100-day Z-score. Yeah, these are the 100-day Z-scores of the various boomer shitcoins. And so you'll notice they all oscillate around the 0 point. So it enables us to say which ones are performing better than the other ones. Now, it's a relative performance to its own history, right? It's not saying, like, for example, if Doge has a shitload of volatility and Monero has very little volatility, you might see a similar standard deviation pump in Monero where Monero pumped really high, right? 4.5, you can see on the right here. That's 4.5 standard deviations above its current moving average, the 100-day moving average. Whereas for Doge, because it has so much more volatility, that's more like a 400% on Doge. But different assets have different volatilities, right? So you kind of like, in terms of how well Monero is doing relative to itself, this is a big deal, right? That was a big pump for Monero's relative price performance. So it's kind of a mouthful. If you really are interested in Z-scores, I definitely 100% recommend getting on YouTube and watching some videos about moving average, moving standard deviation, and Z-scores. You really want to understand the underlying mathematical concept This is not PhD level math, right? This is not cryptography. This is like basic pleb level, you know, engineering level math you would have taken, you know, like as an undergrad engineer. And it's really not that hard. It's based on simple stuff like multiplication and division, a little bit of square roots, things like that. But it's you can understand it, right? If you sit for a moment, you can definitely understand it, and it will serve you. Understanding these concepts will serve you in the long run. Okay, so back to Bitcoin. Yeah, the point, guys, on this chart is that I really am entertaining the possibility that we're actually gonna touch this red line maybe in January, right? Maybe like Q1 next year. I really think it could happen sooner than later. That's tentative, right? I'm not really like advocating that, but it's tentative. It could happen. All right, so let's go back to the regular chart and let's turn on the wave magic, see what's going on there. Basically, we're just hanging out at the top of the purple bands. Oh, that's the weekly. There we go, daily. Yeah, effectively, Bitcoin is now inside of an uptrending and upsloping purple band range. So these purple bands are going to continue to do this. You can kind of see, let's go down to the 4 hour, you'll see it better. You can kind of see where, you know, on the very short term, you've got like another range there that's headed up, right? And then obviously you've got the bottom there. So Bitcoin has like all of this range to play with. Anything inside range is still bullish, right? You like hypothetically, Bitcoin could crash down here to like 84,000, and that would still be bullish, right? That's not a big deal. Like if Bitcoin takes a big drop, like that's not a big deal. The thing can still come back here and go to the top side. You just kind of overall expect it to trend up like that. Okay. Now I was kind of hoping that the wave magic levels, the sort of predicted wave magic levels, would coincide with the regression analysis. So let's actually just overlay them. So this is one of these things that it's like, it's really powerful if you can get two separate, like very different types of TA indicators and they're saying the same thing. It's kind of like we talk about correlating the TA and the fundamentals together simultaneously. Those are together, taken together, painting the same picture is much more powerful than either one of them solo. Anyway, so the point here is that I was really kind of hoping that we could see the purple bands, you know, kind of intersect with this. If that happens, that will be a really, really good spot for us to say it's time to sell. All of the maxis will be mad at me and Twitter will tell me how wrong I am, probably again. But you guys know better because we did this whole thing 4 years ago when we first got introduced to each other. So yeah. That's what Bitcoin's looking like. It looks still bullish to me. That doesn't mean that it can't take a pullback, but in general, this thing probably has more to run unless we get the big macro crash. But that's still, it's all the signs are there, but it's not imminent, right? It's not like it's not happening. It's not incipient. You know, the signs are there. It could happen kind of almost at any time now. Like the signs could push us over the edge, and you know we should be able to see that in real time, but it's not here yet. Okay, so anyways, Bitcoin dominance, you can see we talked about this last week. It was in this channel for a long time. It didn't quite make the upper standard deviation bands there, right? Like it almost just barely almost quite made it. And this is something that you have to be aware of when playing with wave magic. You're not always going to hit these bands. We came within 1%, right? So that was pretty close, but it didn't quite hit it. Probably a factor in that was the Tornado Cash development, right? And then also Gary Gensler. So right around this time, it was like a couple weeks ago, we said, hey, Gary Gensler has tendered his resignation for January 20th. And that was probably one among a couple things that set the altcoin run into motion, right? You had the Bitcoin, you had the Tether expansion, you had the Bitcoin clearly new all-time highs, finally convincingly breaking all-time highs, combined with altcoins starting to pop off. And then you've got the news events, right? Tornado Cash had a good development. And then Gary Gensler tendered his resignation. All these things together, it was like, okay, it's time for altcoins to run. And now altcoins, Bitcoin dominance has lost its channel here. And so this is the point where, you know, we basically had to suffer the maxis all this time telling us how shitcoins were dying to Bitcoin. Shitcoins are always dying to Bitcoin in the lead up to a bull market. As Bitcoin, you know, as the pattern that we well know, it's Bitcoin first, and then the altcoins follow once everyone's convinced that the bull market is on. And so from now, I mean, it looks like, yep, we're probably going to see continued altcoin gains. What's insane is the kinds of market caps that some of these coins are going to have. Like we could literally be looking at Doge at $1 trillion or $2 trillion of market cap, guys. I hate to fucking say that on stream, but that's just the reality of what could be happening here. Some of these market caps are going to get insane again. People probably have the 4-year cycle in their head. It makes a lot of sense to me to top out in January or maybe February or something like that, and actually like have a very quick and like a strong but quick bull market that ends quickly and just leaves a lot of people with their pants down. So, okay. Yeah, that's what's going on there with the Bitcoin dominance. Probably this thing has more to fall. The altcoins have more to run. One trick, let me show you guys a little trick when dealing with the maximalist. Let's go to the, let's go to quad 2. Quad 2. Hey, no, that's the wrong screen. Quad 2, because I have another thing on quad 1 that I want to show you guys. Bitcoin had a flash crash. We need to look at that. Look, let me show you a cool, clever little trick to do when you're talking with the maximalist and they're like showing you charts about how things dying to Bitcoin. What you do, instead of saying like Doge BTC, right? You know, normally you type in Doge BTC. Instead, type in BTC USD divided by Doge USD. And then change your log. You should be in logarithmic, but if you want to be a scumbag, just go over here to regular. And then what you're doing now, what we're looking at is Bitcoin's price relative to Doge. This is how well Bitcoin is doing relative to Dogcoin. So when it's going up, that means Bitcoin is doing really well. And when it's down, that means Bitcoin is dying to Dogcoins. And you can see Bitcoin is basically at its all-time lows relative to Dog. Like this chart is death. Bitcoin, it will forever die to Dogcoins. It only did slightly better here in the bull market, but ever since the bull market of 2021, Bitcoin has basically just never recovered relative to Dog. So Doge is going to kill every Doge is going to consume. Yeah. It's a black hole vortex of encrypted Doge Dog energy that's just consuming Bitcoin. Sorry, Maxie. Sorry, bros, but that's just what the chart says.
Wow, what do they have to say about that, huh?
Yeah, mic drop.
But it's Elon
yeah,
Musk.
they get upset and they make excuses and they go into rage mode when you
Bitcoin really is a religion. Satoshi is their god and Bitcoin is Jesus Christ.
Amen. Or Harikari or something. Whatever they want to. I guess they're all kind of they are kind of Christian actually. There's definitely some more Christian bros in the Bitcoin community. Not that there's anything wrong with not to knock Christianity at all. Just for the record, that's not what I was trying to say there. Okay, so let's take a look at what happened. Say what?
That was a comparison I was making because it's like it's funny when you look at it. It's like, oh yeah, really, Satoshi is like they worship him and they worship Bitcoin.
Yeah, you know, that is kind of a little bit of an incongruency there to be a Christian, but then to kind of have this like religion, this idol. Like if you're a Christian and you're basically a maximalist, yeah, and you really have this kind of like idolization thing going on. Like Bitcoin is going to save humanity. It's like, bro, like there's nothing that can save humanity except for, you know, the Christ within, obviously. So it's like, all right, guys. Anyways, enough bashing on the maximalist. Well, let's go back to Bitcoin because there's one that we still need to cover with Bitcoin. There was a flash crash, guys. This is not good. This isn't as bad as the flash crash that happened in 2021. So to be long-winded about it, let's rewind back to 2021. It was October, and there was a big flash crash that happened across like multiple exchanges on Bitcoin because somebody smashed the market sell on $100 million worth of Bitcoin, and markets crashed within 1 minute, within the span of like 60 to 120 seconds across multiple exchanges. The markets crashed between 10 and 25%, something like that. And then it recovered, but it shouldn't have happened. And that was like, we were basically at the top. October 2021, November 2021 was the top. And I remember seeing that, and it happened twice in the same week. And I was like, that should not happen in a highly liquid market with lots of buying pressure, right? If the order books were stacked and it was a deep market, a liquid market with lots of buying pressure so that we were about to get to 100K, that shit wouldn't happen. There would be far too many buy orders on the books for that to happen. And yet it happened twice in a week. And I said, guys, I even posted on Reddit cryptocurrency. I said, guys, this is like, they're being nice to you here. They're screaming at you that this is the top. You're not making 100K. For the love of God, take some profit right now before like before you slap yourself in a few months. But you know, everyone hated me for saying it, but whatever. Anyway, the point is that the flash crash, we had a flash crash. This wasn't like too terribly bad. It was, notice on the left here, we're on 5-minute charts. So it took a little bit longer to happen. It was to the tune of about 7%. For the most part, you can see we have Coinbase, Bitfinex, Kraken, and Binance pulled up. Obviously, there's other exchanges to look at, but you know, these are kind of the big ones. You know, so it was a flash crash that happened really more so in the span of of about 5 minutes altogether. We went down to the minute chart here. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I mean, about 3 to 5 minutes here overall flash crash. So the last one that happened was like a 60-second flash crash. This was like a 5-minute flash crash. And the total volume of it was about 2,500 Bitcoin, which would be about $250 million. So it wasn't nearly as bad as the one that happened at the top of the market in 2021, in October 2021. But it's still not good. Like you really don't want to see a flash crash like this off a $250 million market sell. To cause this kind of negative price action. You would hope that the markets would be a little bit deeper, a little bit more liquid, especially in light of TFs and supposedly, everyone's adopting. It's not a good sign. That doesn't mean it's the top, but it raises an eyebrow and it makes you think that we might be closer to the top than people would expect, right? Another thing that I wonder is that, is it possible that my regression analysis might be intentionally broken? I feel like Binance knows who we are, right? We expose their lies. We expose their bullshit. It would not surprise me if Binance and some of the cabal actually knows who we are and have seen the Bitcoin power law. I mean, so I have the regression analysis that's correct, but the Bitcoin power law that you've seen floating around, it's just like, it's a poorly done version of what I've done, but it's actually pretty close, believe it or not. It's possible that that enough visibility is getting onto these price boundaries. So let's go back here. Let's go back to that enough visibility.
25 cents. Sign the petition for free. Yep, freerogernow.org.
Oh, okay. Sorry. We'll say that one more time. I think I was over talking you for a second.
Prancing tip 25 cents. Sign the petition for free. www.freerogernow.org.
Thank you, Prancing. Prancing tipped.
I think I signed that a couple months ago.
Let's see. Let me add the regression analysis. Okay, so what I'm trying to get at here is that it would not surprise me in the slightest if the top actually comes a little bit sooner than this red line. Like in 2021, I sold before the red line because I was like, listen, I don't know. I was still pretty new to it. Like I was still kind of getting my bearings, but I sold early. I didn't hit the perfect top, even though I kind of knew when the perfect top happened, because I was like, again, it's that don't get greedy. Don't try and nail the perfect top for the most part. Like take the money and run. If you have good profits, just take those profits and be happy with them. I didn't sell at the perfect top, but I did call the perfect top. So it's kind of like this weird dichotomy. Like, I just wanted to keep myself safe. So again, I would probably, what you want to do, again, Alaska mentioned this earlier in the super XMRChats. He said, sell on the way up, right? Like take profit, right? You sell in staggered levels because that way, it's a little bit more responsible. You're overall going to do a better job of getting into and out of positions by placing 3 to 5 buy orders all the way down or all the way up. So, but yeah, we had the flash crash. That's not a good sign. That doesn't mean the run is over. It wasn't nearly as bad as the one that happened in 2021, but it's there. It needs to be on your mind. It's an important mental note that needs to be made, and you need to keep that in the back of your mind. Okay, I think we're getting pretty close here to everything we need to talk about. ETH BTC looks like it's making a comeback, but it sure has a long way to go before it could do that. But Bitcoin dominance has a long way to fall, right? Bitcoin dominance could make it all the way down here, right? That's 28%. Whether ETH
Uh-oh. Did we lose Bawdy? Looks like we may have lost Bawdy.
Oh no!
for a second, I think.
Oh wait,
he's back.
Welcome back. Let's see if I can.
Okay. I guess that Mexican internet faulted. They just like to do that.
UPS kicked in.
No, the electricity's fine. I didn't get an electricity flicker, but Total Play just likes to drop out every now and then. Yeah, okay, so shitcoins, you can see XMR is not a shitcoin, but I included on the list just so we can like make a relative comparison. We have pumped the Z-scores here. Everything else is just kind of trending sideways. Tron had a mega pump this week. That was actually, that was nice. Tron pumped a little bit. Tron is important still, guys, because USDT still has a shitload of Tron, or a shitload of USDT that operates on top of Tron. Boy, that's a mouthful. So yeah, Tron's going to like remain relevant into the future. It's not going to be one of these chains like what is it, DRX, like Tezos or whatever. It's not going to be one of these platforms that slowly dies forever, but because Tether operates on, so it's going to continue to be relevant into the future. Okay, macro stuff. There's not too much macro happening. I mean, obviously macro happens all the time. It's effectively the space-time by which all other assets exist inside of whatever far out the economic philosophy. Yeah, we don't need to look at Dixie. Nothing happened there. Nothing happened with gold either. Gold is still kind of like trending near its near that resistance level that we talked about. You know, the 1980, the one that started in 1980, still kind of trending there. It would make sense. Why would gold perform? People are seeing crypto. Everyone's going to go get into crypto right now. So why are people going to get into gold at this precise moment? You know, and I was kind of hoping that we would see more gold action. Maybe the next gold pump basically might have to wait for the macro crash and then the liquidity expansion before that thing really takes off. Who knows? It's difficult for me to think gold is going to perform here in the short term. So just know that. The reverse repos are continuing to go down, down, down. They've got 130 billion left in the reverse repos. And I think that's still effectively driving stock market gains. You can see that the S&P here has put on new all-time highs as of this week. So the S&P is just continuing to go up steadily, steadily, steadily. You know, that's what they like. They want the stock market to usually just kind of go up steadily. The NASDAQ has put on new all-time highs as of the past couple of weeks. So again, you know, it feels like these reverse repos are probably helping to fuel that. And these are close to running out, but they really seem to be maximizing their value. Okay. Oil is another big one. You know, oil is just barely hanging on. We've talked about oil. Once it drops out of trend, that's one of these incipient signs. We're like, hey, when we see oil, you can see I've drawn a couple new lines down here. When we see oil, and this is the weekly chart, when we see oil dropping down into this range, that's when I'm like, it's incipient, right? It's happening. It's starting. The reason is that if people think a recession is coming and manufacturing is going to slow down and economy is going to slow down, what are we going to use less of? Energy. So what's going to fall in price? Oil, right? So this is kind of one of these charts that the insiders, there are inside moves being made on this chart right now in preparation for some kind of macro event, most likely. And especially the final confirmation that we need is to see this thing down here. That is insiders making their plays to position themselves for a macro crash. And it's one of these charts that people don't really look at that much. Like, yeah, people look at it, but they're not looking at it in the sense for the macro crash like we're looking like we're busy looking here at the bonds. Like we're all like, I'm looking at this, we're looking at this, and everybody else is looking at this because everybody knows that the yield curve inversion correcting back towards the positive is a telltale sign of some kind of macro crash. So everyone's looking at this chart. We have a little bit of edge here, I think, in the fact that we've identified this oil chart, the pattern that oil starts crashing just before the big stock market crash, the risk asset, the crypto, the stocks, the NASDAQ, the tech stocks. That stuff crashes, but only just a little bit after the oil movement gets going. So we've got a little bit of an edge here to identify this macro crash whenever it happens. It looks to me like it's very possible that this crypto run could happen before the macro crash, which would be crazy to me. But, you know, that's why you got to position yourself in a way that you can win, even if the market does something you didn't quite expect. I wouldn't have expected the crypto bull market to smash like it's just pumping like this. I wouldn't have expected that before the macro crash, but here it is, right? So this is why you need to have positions that keep you in the market, you know, different stokes in the fire, whatever, right? Like you need to have different sticks in the fire. So when this happens, you don't get totally left behind, right? Okay, so that's oil. Again, big thing that we got to look at. And the last thing we'll look at here is the civilian unemployment, which we had some new numbers. This guy ticked up just a tiny little bit. And that is again, it's confirmation that, okay, it looks like unemployment still wants to tick up. It does look like it's still, because this chart, if you remember, like a month ago, we were saying, hey, you know, it's kind of taking a break, 1, 2, 3 months here, and it hasn't gone up. Maybe this would be kind of like a contrary part, you know, like against my thesis of the macro crash. It would be one data point, but we have a tick up here. If we get another tick up again, that's pretty much a foregone conclusion that it's coming. Again, unemployment spikes, it starts spiking, then the crash happens, and then it spikes some more. Typically, that's the pattern. So it's called the SAM rule, SAHM. Look it up if you're interested in that. Let's check the chats here, make sure that we don't not missing anybody. Anderson says U.S. oil is still jumping around that danger zone. Yeah, exactly. In fact, it's this chart looks to me. Let's go down to the daily. This chart looks very much to me like something that wants to break down and that like is trying not to break down. Like this chart is like, we're fucked. Oh, let's pretend like we didn't know, but we actually did break down. And now we're like trending. Oh God, we can't keep it up, and then it's gonna, they're just unable to perform there. So that's what this chart looks to me. I know I kind of like anthropomorphize the chart. Excuse me for doing so. But sometimes you just gotta go with the feels. Feels before reals. Sometimes feels are the reals. You just got to know what the difference is. But yeah, this chart feels like it's trying not to break down, and it's eventually going to break down. So at least that's my thesis. That's what I got for you guys today. Gold is not an investment. It manifestate. Iman with the manifestation says gold is not an investment. It's a guarantee of wealth. Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, it's how you store wealth. There's a reason that central banks hold a shitload of gold on their balance sheet, because they know that it's how you store wealth, right? They know they're printing a shitload of money, so they know they need a peg that that keeps them going. But then again, gold is your reserves, guys. Like gold is not going to make you rich. Probably there will come some point with a macro reevaluation of gold where it just pumps to the moon, and then everyone's going to want to try and catch that cocaine high again, and they're not going to be able to, because gold doesn't do that except for once a decade, once every 2 decades maybe. So gold is your reserves, and you want to have your reserves be like 5 to 10%, maybe, right? 5 to 10% of your net. In a bear market, maybe that goes to like 50%. But gold is your reserves. You don't necessarily want to think you're about to get rich on gold, but it keeps you in a position that's difficult to defeat. And Sun Tzu, the Chinese warrior philosopher, said that first put yourself beyond the possibility of defeat, and only then go out to seek to defeat your enemy. So gold is kind of like that. First, putting yourself beyond the possibility of defeat. If everything crashes and goes to hell, gold suddenly will get reevaluated higher. Right, if we had like some really true beyond the medical intervention of the economy that happened in 2020, like if something truly epic to the economy happens, gold will be your will kind of be your lifeboat. Because you can't even guarantee that the internet's going to be up in a lot of situations, right? Like we could have spotty internet and we might lose cryptocurrency for some period of time. That could happen, guys. Like that's legitimately can happen. So I'm not trying to say that it will happen. I'm just saying that gold has a part in your portfolio, probably 5 to 10% typically on average. Just to sort of echo what a manifestation said there. Okay, guys. I think with that,
Bawdy, when you were wait, hold on, let me switch my mic here. When you were saying, give me 1 second. There, that should be better.
Smash the like.
When you were saying you tend to move your crypto profits into gold. What means are you using for that? You're moving it into gold-backed stable coins, or?
Yes, all of the above. Right. There are gold bullion vaults. So people like third-party custody is terrible, and it's like, well, actually, third-party custody, there was a good reason that was invented, and it still lives, because third-party custody can protect you from yourself in a lot of cases. So it's also geopolitical risk arbitrage, right? Geopolitical risk management. So you can have a gold bullion vault in some other country, right? I don't want to necessarily give any names, but they're out there, like they're obvious. I guess Money Metals is an easy one. It's in the States, so you might.
That's direct. You could do essentially direct from crypto into. Can you do from Monero into gold using one of these services?
Money Metals in the United States has Monero listed. Actually, let's go check them out.
We got to get them on XMR Bazaar.
Actually, yeah. Hell, you might even want to try and get them on the show.
Yeah.
Let's check out Money Metals here. Let's do moneymetals.com. They are a reputable gold bullion vault. Where can we see? All right, let's just buy something. Let's buy American Eagle, whatever, add to cart. Let's go check out, and let's see. Because they have Monero on here. They used to have Monero, and I want to see if you can actually use Monero. Okay, whatever. Payment method. God dang it. We got to do all this stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Well, forget it. Let's just go back. But okay, Money
God damn
Metals
it.
is one of the places that I like. They have offered. They offer crypto, gold, silver for crypto. They
Now,
had Monero listed, but there
Mhm.
was some kind of like question as to whether they actually accepted Monero. So if you're interested, guys, check it out on your own time. I don't want to drag the show on here trying to make this work.
Do they KYC as you do? They KYC, I assume, right? Obviously.
Well, I mean, if you're going to have them store your gold in their bullion vault or ship it to you,
Yeah.
they don't KYC you though. Like if you want to buy gold for crypto, you could hypothetically ship it to your friend's house or your
Oh,
mom's
wow.
house or something like that.
Really?
I mean, it's still
Okay.
that would only be pseudo anonymous at best.
Yeah, I'm gonna dox my friend instead of myself.
The IRS comes knocking on their door, and they're like, "I didn't do it. It was my friend."
Right, but you're actually not, because I'm surprised. So how are they dealing with money transmission? Whatnot?
I mean, it's so gold occupies a unique space in that, like they don't have to, they don't have to obey all of these crazy KYC AML laws that the bank system does.
But like if you like these cash for gold places that you see all over the place, like here in New York, I know they have to follow like Bank Secrecy Act stuff. Like they pretty much have to KYC over certain amounts and whatnot.
Oh, when you buy gold, you don't have to, like, there's no KYC. You can just pay fiat and get the gold, and you could do it at almost any amount. I believe though, when you sell gold is when they KYC you.
Okay.
There's Money Metals here. This is a US based gold bullion vault, and they will sell you gold. They'll ship it to you like with UPS or whatever. Singapore is another popular place that people, because Singapore is pretty heavily regulated, and all that stuff, and they don't typically just bounce out with people's cash. But again, you can send them Bitcoin, Ethereum, Tether. Like you can just straight up pay crypto and buy gold bullion and store it in their vault, for crypto. So that's a good way to move between. If you play in shitcoins, you got shitcoin gains on like Ethereum, then go to PaxG, right? If you want to hold gold instead of fiat, go to PaxG. And Pax is a US regulated exchange as well that has a gold backed Ethereum ERC20 token. So that's another easy way to get into gold exposure. Yes, this is all custodial in nature, sure. But
right.
What do you want me to do? Like, do you just want me to sit down for 80% losses? 95%. No, that's dumb. I will hold Tether. Instead of 80% losses, I'll hold Tether. So, but we're not talking about losses right now. We're talking, it's the season for gains. There's a time for losses and a time for gains. I think that's what Ecclesiastes said.
I did hear in the Xano community, I think Aaron Day's talking about like a gold-backed stablecoin built using Xano. Yeah,
that would be badass.
What is I don't know what they're actually working on or how they're working on that, but that's actually quite interesting. I mean, that's kind of a holy grail there, right? That's what got me excited about Xano to begin with. That it could be the pathway towards creating a private stablecoin, essentially.
I don't see a way to do that without custody. Like I don't see how you're going to have a gold-backed stablecoin without some.
Yeah, of course, there would have to be a custody element. Yeah, it wouldn't be like an algorithmic one. I mean, nobody's cracked that riddle yet.
Yeah.
Do you ever foresee that happening, like a algorithmic private stablecoin, or is that just a perpetual motion machine?
So far, it's been, I don't know, the verdict is mixed on that. DAI was partially algorithmic and partially backed, and that seems to have actually worked for quite a while now. But a purely algorithmic backed stablecoin has been subject to catastrophic total failure, complete loss. So maybe there's been some better developments, in the past few years, but so far that doesn't seem to have worked very well.
Yeah, I mean, what would the one where it was Haven? I mean, Haven, right? And then what's the new Zephyr is the one I see? Like, is that's just like another pump and dump, right?
I don't know. I've heard of Zephyr, but I haven't really looked into it. There is a new stablecoin being launched by the guy that created USDC. Let's see. Nihilist just tipped at $1.23. Bookmark for the news section, https librecho monerodevs.org. /synthetic bird / man, that's a lot. You'll have to read it for yourself.
Yeah,
okay,
we'll see if we can try to bring that up. Yeah.
Yeah, but Nihilist tipped a $1.23 bookmark for the news section. Go to the link that's there. Good reminder that privacy is an OPSEC requirement. It demands that you only run FOSS software on your computer. Stay sharp, guys. Yeah, 100%. I would also say just be careful. Just because it's FOSS, just because it's even source available, doesn't mean it's not spyware. You cannot just run the stock Firefox and expect to have any privacy. They ping back to the mothership. They're 95% funded by Google. Firefox is great because it's FOSS, which means that you can go in there and change it and make it better. So LibreWolf is a great example of that. But just know that, yeah, I mean, you definitely want to stick to FOSS, because if it's not, very, very high likelihood that they're taking advantage of you. But just know that even if it is FOSS, it might not necessarily completely protect you. So try to ask the smart guys. Ask Tux. Ask Seth, right? These guys, they really stay on it. They really keep up with it. I kind of keep up with it, but I'm not going to lie, more and more, I kind of just rely on what Seth and Tux think, because I know you guys are constantly always looking at that stuff. And sometimes I just don't have the patience to keep up with it, after some period of time. Anyways, yeah.
I'm going to have to look at that, because someone asked me a question, I guess, related to this drama yesterday about code obfuscation in Flutter. But I didn't know what exactly what's going on in this, so I'll have to take a look through. It's a long thread.
Flutter?
It's the SDK that we use, or the framework we use for Cake Wallet, and I guess for the Havino mobile app, whoever was developing that.
This is what Nihilist was referring to, the drama with Qubit. It was doing something for Havino. I guess he was trying to build a mobile app. We could try to go over this in the news. I don't know, Tux, have you been following this?
No, first time I've seen this link.
Okay. There's something with the bounty, and I haven't been following this. I'm sure people have. They can come up and jump on stage and tell us all about it. I'm sure Shortwave knows all about it. All right.
Interested to hear.
Let's move it along. Bawdy, thank you so much, man.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Bawdy.
Stick around if you can, obviously. Yeah.
W price report. W Monero. Monero going up. Obviously, price isn't the most important thing, because I see a lot of people saying, it's like, okay, it's nice that Monero has moved a little bit in the past 2 years since it's moved. It's been 2 years.
Whoa, what did I just do?
That. There you go.
I mean, price shouldn't be our focus, but price should somewhat match adoption, right? As adoption goes up, price should also follow.
Price is what I always get to is price is important because of
it does matter.
Like utility. I mean, Monero gains utility, becomes much more useful the higher the price comes, because it's connected to
more
liquidity.
Traction.
It's connected to adoption. A Monero that's worth $1,000, when one Monero is worth $1,000 US, it's going to be a lot more liquid. You're going to be able to send a lot more Monero, right? I mean, dollars worth of Monero. This idea that, I even saw it here in the chat, like, oh, it doesn't matter, Monero still works whether it's $1 or $1,000. I just don't agree with that. I mean, so if it's $0, can we agree it doesn't work at all? Like, it gains more utility the more it's valued.
And I think there's a sweet spot to it. I mean, we all seen what happened to Bitcoin. It's just fully captured, and it's now fully a weird speculative asset that can make you a shit ton of money, but it's the only reason it's doing that to the extent it is now is because it's been okayed by the state, and they've kind of captured it in a sense that they're okay with letting it promoting it, letting it go as far as it can. Versus Monero, well, that's not the case at all.
Yeah.
So alrighty. We'll leave it at that. Thank you, Bawdy.
Thanks, Bawdy.
Guys.
All right.
All right, moving on to the news, I guess.
Let's do the news. Yeah, I'm gonna have to run out of my seat around 1:40. I'll try to keep tuning in remotely. But yeah, let's get it going.
All right, let's do it.
The Monerotopia Weekly News segment is sponsored by WizardSwap.io, a non-custodial cryptocurrency exchange.
Tony.
Hey guys, what's up? Happy weekend.
Happy weekend, man. Happy weekend.
So we have quite a bunch of people watching right now. 49 on YouTube and 284 on X. So guys, if you haven't liked, please do. That helps a lot. And we hit 10K on YouTube.
Nice, finally.
Yeah,
we need the sound effects here. I like my other soundboard. I used to have a sound effect.
I got something here on set.
Yeah, so I think we gained
we got to up the production.
There we go. It's very low quality.
Yeah, that didn't really work too well. Come on, now that we're at 10K subscribers, we got to up our production value around here. No more excuses.
I need to get a soundboard. Yeah, I was. I posted earlier this week, people to subscribe. Hopefully, it actually worked.
Yeah, so that's big, guys. Up to 100K. From now, we hit 10K, up to 100K.
Monerotopia YouTube channel to the moon.
The Monero talk, yeah. Yeah, so we have a lot of stuff to discuss on the news section. A lot of stuff. I mean, with Monero, crypto, and we'll discuss about the rise of extremism around the world, which is interesting. And I didn't think that it was going to happen. But let me share my screen.
Get into it.
Let's see. Let's start with this one. And actually before, so just like Bawdy said, guys, now you may make life-changing money. You may 2x, 3x, 4x, whatever the case might be. And just be careful. Set a stop loss if you can. Personally, I wasn't being careful at all, and I lost tens of thousands a couple of years ago, like in 2021. So just be careful and take what the market gave you, set stop losses if you can. And when it comes to Monero, price is very, very important. If it goes up a lot, hopefully in the future, is good for us because it's a sign of usage. And then once the price goes up to a good amount, maybe we're going to get more people invest a lot more money in, like millions of dollars and numbers as such. So yeah, let's start with full chain membership proofs. That's really, really awesome stuff. So we're going to watch a 2-minute video of FCMP. It boosts the sender privacy by expanding the anonymity set from 16 to 100 million plus, eliminating vulnerabilities in ring signatures. So let's go ahead and watch this video. Okay.
Full chain membership proofs promise the most significant privacy enhancement for sender privacy in Monero's history. Monero's original design protects transactions being sent with ring signatures. The ring signature conceals the real spend among 15 decoy spends that the wallet pulls from the blockchain. A node verifies the transaction's authenticity without knowing which spend is real or a decoy, while chain analysis companies observe the ring signature in action. The chain analysis company knows that the ring signature contains a real spend. Thus, with access to large databases, such as those from Know Your Customer centralized exchanges, they can track ring signatures linked to marked spends, known as poisoned outputs. Although ring signatures provide strong privacy guarantees, vulnerabilities arise from extensive metadata collections, potentially leading to outcomes like EAE attacks or co-spend transactions, where a chain analysis company can, with reasonable probability, identify the real spend. Full chain membership proofs aim to eliminate these vulnerabilities for senders. With this protocol, the spent output could be any output on the blockchain. This effectively expands the transaction's anonymity set from 1 of 16 to 1 of over 100 million. This dramatic increase in privacy will apply to every transaction. And because the Monero project prioritizes privacy, users can feel confident that they're using the most fungible cryptocurrency available. Moreover, full-chain membership proofs introduce several impressive updates. These include forward secrecy, which addresses the emerging threat of quantum computing against privacy, transaction chaining, which paves the way for developing certain payment channel protocols, and outgoing view keys, which enhance user experience for those accepting donations or monitoring organizations that do. Full-chain membership proofs represent a crucial next step for Monero. For more information, visit getmonero.org today.
It is a very crucial and very, very exciting next step for Monero, and it's going to make it that much difficult to ever break, essentially. And Shane asked on YouTube, how many XMR should you hold? Well, that depends on you, obviously, but personally, I would always have Monero because it is the most powerful thing that you can own. You essentially own something that they can't even know that you own unless you tell somebody, and it is just very powerful. You can buy gold, you can buy a house or whatever you want, but they can identify that you have purchased that, and depending on where you live, they can confiscate it. They can obviously confiscate your Monero if they show up to your doorstep with a gun and they know you have it, and that's how you're gonna hand it, but they have no other way of seeing that you have Monero. And a couple of years ago, I was at Hackathon, and I was discussing with a guy from Elliptic, I forgot the other chain analysis type company, and he said that they were never able to break Monero, and now it's going to be a lot more difficult. So yeah,
so one of the only things, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, that can actually be lost in a boating accident.
That's true. And Bitcoin hit 100K, but in a sane society, it should be actually the opposite. Monero should be out there. It's
Uncle
fungible.
Sam's coming for his juicy cut.
Yeah.
That's the only reason they let it go. They let it, it's allowed to exist to the extent it is because Uncle Sam gets his juicy cut every time.
Yep. And actually, since you mentioned that, I'm just going to go ahead and jump to this expose, which I've heard of as well, that France is going to tax Bitcoin unrealized gains. I'm not I don't think it passed. I think it's going to, but if it is going to pass, then that's quite horrible. So yeah, you're welcome, Shane. So again, it depends on you. Me personally, I choose to have it because it doesn't matter how much you have, but one day, hopefully, you may never actually need it, but it's going to be there for you anytime. I come from an oppressive regime. Romania, we had communism, and Monero would have been invaluable. So I'm always going to have some, of course. And it just gets stronger and stronger and better and better. It's incredible. And I really do hope that the price is going to go up eventually, because then it's going to attract a lot more people, high net worth individuals to it. So, but yeah, let's go to this post. So it's a robot, and I think that's going to be the future. Now, instead of sending somebody to sell the drugs, you just send a robotic dog that's going to be a drug courier. But yeah, so in Moscow, the police detained one of these robotic dogs. It carried an advertisement for a store with illegal substances, and the substances themselves in containers. After the cops arrived, which this is kind of funny, the robot suddenly turned off all the signal lights and went into self-defense mode, destroying internal information, including geodata of the route. So that's crazy, but yeah, I definitely think that that's going to be the future of what the drug lords are going to use. Just send some robotic dogs sending the drugs, and if the police catches them, then poof, erase data, and that's it. So I'm curious how they're gonna handle that in the future. Now let's go to this house report. Big Brother is watching your wallet. We've been discussing this in the past, but essentially, let me see if I can find. Yeah, it's quite scary. It's quite interesting, and kudos to the people that find this stuff, because obviously they don't make it public to the news station. They don't go and say, "Hey, we're watching your wallets and everything that you do." They don't. You gotta dig in to find this stuff. But yeah, it says right here on this executive summary that on March 6th, 2024, the committee and select subcommittee released an interim report revealing that federal law enforcement had used sweeping search terms like MAGA and Trump to target extremism. That report detailed how federal law enforcement derisively viewed American citizens, treating Americans who, and this is important, treating Americans who expressed opposition to firearm regulations, open borders, COVID-19 lockdowns, vaccine mandates, and the deep state as potential domestic terrorists. So, yeah, they are definitely watching what you do with your money. And in 2023 alone, banks handed over 25.4 million reports to federal agencies, flagging 4.6 million suspicious activities like buying firearms, booking DC hotels, or spending big bucks. Apparently, a weekend getaway or buying a couch could put you on their radar. The FBI ran 3.3 million warrantless searches of this data, and with 25,000 officials accessing these files, the government's watching your wallet like it's a Netflix show. Now they're testing AI and digital IDs to monitor your every move, making sure even your morning coffee isn't too suspicious. Yeah. So we've been talking about this, and actually we'll get into.
What this was. I kind of walked away for a second. This is where there was a congressional report that came out on how they're.
This one is from the U.S. House of Representatives about them watching your wallet and what you do.
Right. So there's a report coming out saying so. I mean, I want to look further into like who was on this committee. I mean, this is good news, right? That you have some congressional committee here coming out and pointing out the fact on how rampant surveillance is in finance, and how it's a breach of the Fourth Amendment. We need these same people, these same freedom-loving representatives that they claim to be, to embrace technologies like Monero, right? I mean, that is the solution, right? They can try to create regulations or kind of deregulate in the banking sector, or they could point people towards tools like Monero and embrace those tools and essentially have them be viewed in the same light as cash, right? I think that is the solution. The U.S. government needs to move in that direction where Monero is viewed as cash in the eyes of the law.
Yeah, I hope that's going to happen. But it's interesting how they view you as a domestic terrorist when your interest is opposing their interest. Dom wrote on YouTube, "Don't show scary images during the weekend. Watch it for yourself. Thank you." Yeah, I'm sorry, guys, if I show too many negative stuff, especially in the weekend. I guess I'll try to include some more positive stuff too, throw in there. As Shane said, has anyone noticed the banks are getting more difficult to work with, i.e. transact, fund? Yeah, I've been noticing it for a long time, especially I'm from Europe, and it's just a pain to send transactions to, say, family back home, or yeah, I hate banks, to be honest. I also don't have the best banks, so, but let's go to this post on X. In socialist Norway, everyone's tax returns are public. They just got published. Norwegian media proceeds to publish article about the wealth and income of people owning Bitcoin and or crypto, complete with lists, full names, birth year, etc. Completely insane, putting a target on the back of all these people, want and well. And we have here two images. And it says tax lists. This is how much the crypto profiles earned the pyramid scheme. Several Norwegians made millions in cryptocurrency last year. And boom, I guess showing you which person made the most amount. God, that's wild. That's crazy. But with Monero, that's if you buy it on centralized exchanges, they will be able to know that you have it. So try not to buy it from centralized exchanges, and then you're definitely not going to be on this list. But I can't believe it. Okay, let's go to this X post. I met Alex actually a couple years ago. He's a great person. He's a great guy. But the Dutch exit tax, and I think Canada has it as well, unless they took it off. But essentially, you're going to be taxed if you want to emigrate from the Netherlands. They propose a new exit tax for citizens who leave the country, which will cost you allegedly thousands of euros in tax. And you're going to be taxed for 5 years after leaving the country, expected into effect in 2025. God. And I think Canada's asking for, I could be wrong, but I think they were asking for 25,000. Last time I checked. I could be wrong, but Mr. 1024 Anderson, what the fuck, Norway? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. That's so invasive. Okay, let's go. Yeah, this the Moneronodo is so beautiful. Gabriel Custodiet posted testing out in Moneronodo, an autonomous pre-built Monero node that looks just beautiful, that can do some serious work. Oops, I'm sorry. Let's go back. As evidenced by successful use of Monerotopia review coming soon.
Guys, the nodos are shipping, and we'll have them by Christmas. The nodos are shipping. We have a few people that we were trying to confirm shipping addresses with, just because it's been so long. If you're one of those people, please reach out on Twitter or in Telegram, or email us moneronodo.com. Please find us. Reach out to Abdullah. We just want to confirm addresses before we ship them all, but you will have your Nodo under your Christmas tree.
That's awesome. It just looks so nice too. That display is beautiful. Thin bezels. It's really nice.
Yeah, it is. It is awesome. And for me, the highlight with the Monero, with the Nodo, was seeing it working at Monerotopia. We had 2 of them running, each connected to their own Starlink network, allowing attendees and the vendors to connect to the Wi-Fi on the Starlink, and then to connect to the same Nodo via their Cake wallet. And it really worked beautifully. I mean, we had lots of people connected to each. We had maybe 20-30 people connected to each Nodo at least. It was fantastic.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. So Tuck sent me this one, and it's funny. Choose your fighter. Bitcoin devs, Turbo Autist, Andrew Poelstra, CIA agent Peter Todd, Monero dev, you have Turbo Autist, Luke Parker, a cow, Monero Moo, Zcash devs, TED speaker Zoko Wilcox, and it's a screenshot of his expose that we all know, in which he said, and by the way, I think we can successfully make Zcash too traceable for criminals like WannaCry, but still completely private and fungible. Sure. And also you have on the Zcash dev team load bearing Catgirl, Daryl Hopwood, and then Monero devs, video game character Wario, some other people sometimes maybe. That's funny. Now let's discuss the final report. The Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic's final report is the most thorough review of the pandemic conducted to date. It's 500 pages, and we'll discuss 557. It's quite big, but we'll discuss the most interesting aspects of this. So, the COVID-19 origins. Let's talk about this. We were told that it may come from bats, all kinds of stuff, comes from nature. Well, according to this, COVID-19 most likely emerged from a laboratory in Wuhan, China, as We thought the 5 strongest arguments are: the virus possesses a biological characteristic that is not found in nature. Data shows that all COVID-19 cases stem from a single reintroduction into humans. This runs contrary to previous pandemics where there are multiple spillover events. Wuhan is home to China's foremost SARS research lab, which has a history of conducting gain-of-function research at inadequate biosafety levels. Wuhan Institute of Virology researchers were sick with a COVID-like virus in the fall of 2019, months before COVID-19 was discovered at the wet market. By nearly all measures of science, if there was evidence of a natural origin, it would have already surfaced. Next. And we provide all the links, guys. If you want to read more about this, if you want to check out the whole 557 pages, we're going to provide the links too. Okay, give me 1 second. Let's skip to COVID-19 vaccine. Let's talk about this one. President Trump's Operation Warp Speed, which encouraged the rapid development and authorization of the COVID-19 vaccine, was highly successful and helped save millions of lives. Now, let's talk about the COVID-19 vaccine, which, contrary to what was promised, the COVID-19 vaccine did not stop the spread or transmission of the virus. Now, because I'm not an expert in this stuff, so I'm just reading it off. Rushed COVID-19 vaccine approval. The FDA rushed approval of the COVID-19 vaccine, which I would say I definitely felt it. We all felt it. It was really fast. Especially since I think it takes like a couple of years for them to actually develop a vaccine. Again, I'm not an expert, but in order to meet the Biden administration's arbitrary mandate timeline, 2 leading FDA scientists warned their colleagues about the dangers of rushing the vaccine approval process and the likelihood of adverse events. They were ignored, and days later, the Biden administration mandated the vaccine. The mandates were not supported by science and caused more harm than good. Natural immunity. Public health officials engage in a coordinated effort to ignore natural immunity, which is acquired through previous COVID-19 infection, when developing vaccine guidance and mandates.
Oh, I see some cognitive dissonance in that image.
Yeah. Benjamin said on YouTube, I'm thinking about investing into this coin for the future. Well, you seem new, so welcome to our channel. Yeah, do your research. And personally, I mean, I used to be, just so you know, I used to be a Bitcoin maximalist. And then I read the Mastering Monero a couple of years ago. And once I found that not only Monero is fungible, private, but which is very, very good, is that you can actually use it as cash, because the more transactions we have, the lower the fees, which is very important for a cash-like, let's say, replacement, or just so you can use it as cash, plus many other things. Economic impact on COVID-19. More than 160,000 businesses closed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. That was a hard time to be a business owner, with 60% of these closures classified as permanent. School closures, it was tough. I have friends that were studying medicine. They had to do lab work, and they couldn't. It was tough. Oversight, compliance, and there was one more from this that I wanted to mention. It talked about the masks. I'm not sure if I can find it, but essentially it said that masks were, and the 6 feet and all the stuff were actually ineffective. So there's that. And then this is the document, 557 pages. If you want to read into it, we provide all the links. Moving forward, let's see.
I like how they said that Trump's Operation Warp Speed saved millions of lives, but at the same time, the vaccine was not effective in stopping the transmission or saving people or whatever.
It also said and it also mentioned that it injured some people.
Yeah, it's like they want to have it both ways. They want to be able to suck off Trump while also admitting that the vaccine do shit.
Yeah. Now let's play this video. It's 1 minute and 30 seconds. William Makis MD posted on X. I don't think the COVID-19 vaccine con artist will go away quietly. If this rant from Peter Hotez sounds a lot like a threat. That's because it is. Let's watch it.
Nicole.
And I think that's it on COVID, guys, and then we'll go into different stuff.
Here's the reason why we need to care about this stuff, Nicole, is that we have some big picture stuff coming down the pike starting on January 21st. Mr. Bloomberg mentioned H5N1. That I'm really worried about. It's all over wild birds on the western part of the United States and going up in the north. It's getting into the poultry. We're seeing sporadic human cases, no human-to-human transmission yet, but that could happen. It's in the cattle, it's in the milk, and that's just the beginning. We have another major coronavirus likely brewing in Asia. We've had SARS in 2002, SARS-2, COVID-19 in 2019. And we know these viruses are jumping from bats to people thousands of times a year, but there's still more. We know that we have a big problem with mosquito-transmitted viruses all along the Gulf Coast, where I am here in Texas. So we're expecting dengue and possibly Zika virus coming back, or a Puche virus, maybe even yellow fever. And there's more. Then we have all this sharp rise in vaccine preventable diseases going up because of, in part, the anti-vaccine activism that's so prominent right now. We have a fivefold rise.
The audio cut off.
21st on the Trump administration. We need a really, really good team to be able to handle this.
One thing that I'm going to mention is them saying in the headline that RFK is beyond dangerous in the government.
Why do all the health officials look like the most unhealthy people?
Yeah, I mean he looks decent, but yeah,
he looks okay. Most of the other people though look like they're dying.
Yeah, I think, remember when I showed a picture?
And he doesn't look great.
Yeah. Like I think we showed a picture of the Belgium Minister of Health, the Canadian. God, they look like the most unhealthiest people ever. Meanwhile, RFK is jacked and doing pull-ups and push-ups and all. Yeah, moving on. I'm really not sure if this is satire or if these people really believe XRP is going to reach $10,000, but it's 45 seconds and we'll play it and you decide whether this is satire or they're really serious. But
hit $10,000. XRP definitely could hit $10,000. Blackrock is about to buy $9 trillion worth of XRP.
That's insane. Soulface, what do you think, bro?
Oh yeah, definitely 1,000%. XRP is about to hit $10,000, especially because of them going after the SWIFT banking system.
Okay, Gabe, what do you think, bro?
Without a doubt, XRP to 10 bands, and the reason is XRP has intrinsic value. Bitcoin doesn't.
Okay, Mark, what do you think?
XRP $10,000, no question.
Okay, cool. Luke, what do you think?
Absolutely. Wisdom Tree just recently filed an ETF. It's going to go berserk.
Okay, cool. Sage, what do you think, bro?
I think XRP could 100% hit $10,000 simply if they just take over the SWIFT banking system, which will put their market cap well over 1.2 quadrillion.
I really hope this is satire. 1.2 quadrillion.
It's amazing. Oh my god. Peak idiocracy. Just like we just keep breaking new ground here.
I think this is satire.
Same.
I really do believe.
Dude, it feels like 2021 and what was it, 2017 all over again. The previous bull markets. Now people are getting goofy.
If it's satire, it's kind of it's genius, but I don't think it's satire.
I don't know. I
because
hope so.
it is hilarious the way they. I don't think
funny.
it's satire, man. I don't think it is. I mean, I think it's people that are intentionally, obviously, trying to pump it.
Yeah.
I don't think these people believe it, what they're saying, but I think they're trying to convey it to their viewers.
Possibly. Yeah, but isn't BlackRock worth how much is BlackRock worth anyway? BlackRock net worth, let's see. It's 9 trillion. That's a lot of money. $11.5 trillion in assets. Yeah, for sure. They're gonna have 9 trillion just of XRP. That's
well, they're saying it will take over the SWIFT network, right? And then it's basically going to be the rails for all transactions in the world.
Well, if that happens,
Is there
I'm
any
gonna bend the knee and
I've not looked into Ripple whatsoever.
yeah.
Your body
Okay.
could say something on that.
Let's move on. Let's see. Crypto lessons. So, crypto lessons from a $3.5 million scam. Charles Parks III, aka CP30, just pleaded guilty to a massive crypto jacking scheme. God, the bull market is it's back. Stealing 3.5 million in cloud resources to mine crypto like Ethereum and Monero. He spun up fake companies, tricked cloud providers, and laundered crypto into flashy buys, Benzes, jewelry, luxury travel. Reminder for investors, transparency is non-negotiable. The digital paper trail always catches up, and this ecosystem thrives on trust. Just looking, it's crazy how many scams have been in this space, and I remember the high yields like Celsius and other companies that promised high yields, and then they turned out to be scams. So many scams. Luna, God, yeah. Let's go to. Let's talk about Roger. Let's watch this 2-minute video. The title says, "This should terrify every American. This needs to stop." And it's 2 minutes and 45 seconds, but it's definitely worth it. So let's watch it. Let's see, Mr. 1024. This dude has such god-awful OPSEC. Those fake companies, direct ties to his name. God. Yeah, that's brilliant. Okay, let's watch this video, guys.
But to break it down really quickly, when you exit the country and you exit, you give up your citizenship, you have to do something called a constructive hypothetical sale, which is that you pretend you sell everything you own in one day, the day before you leave. And the reality was that Roger owned such a huge percentage of the Bitcoins in the world at that time that if he had tried to sell them, the trading volume was, I think, $10 million. And so anything you sold over $10 million was utterly worthless. And so if the government's rule is, if you sold everything in one day, how much would it be worth? The answer is anything over the global market cap for that, for that asset is worth nothing. If everybody in the entire U.S. decided to sell their house tomorrow, would you get Zillow value? I think all of us know the answer to that question. So they essentially want Zillow value for everybody's home if everybody sold on the same day. That's what they're asking for out of Roger. So it makes no sense. But what it came down to is that Roger consulted the best tax accountants, the best lawyers in the entire country, hired the best possible team, and he told them, look, I know the IRS doesn't like me. I know I'm going to be audited. I know they will attempt to come after me. I need you to do this perfectly. I need there to be no mistakes. I need every T crossed. I need every I dotted. And that's all in the emails that he sent to the accountant. So we know that he wanted perfect compliance. And how do we know that? We know that because in 2017, they raided his attorney's office. Armed federal agents raided his attorneys, interrogated his attorneys, seized reams of documents from his attorneys and attempted to use them against Roger. And this should terrify every American because they're attempting to destroy attorney-client privilege using this case. If what you say to your attorney is no longer private, what chance do you have? What chance do I have? So this case should be horrifying to every American because it's about destroying your attorney-client privilege, and it's about destroying your right to rely on your accountant, your right to rely on your attorney when it comes to the U.S. tax code, that's 70,000 pages of which none of us can possibly memorize. And so if they do this to Roger, they're coming for the rest of us next. It's terrifying. But yes, the president can unilaterally decide to pardon Roger. The incoming DOJ could decide to drop the charges. And we fervently hope that one of those two things will happen because this lawfare needs to end. The incoming government needs to say, we've been the victims of lawfare. We need to look at everyone else who's been a victim of lawfare, and this needs to stop. Otherwise, our country has no chance. We as Americans have no shot unless this stops, and it stops now.
Yeah, that's a grave situation, guys. And hopefully in 2025, we're going to see Roger free. We're going to see Ross free and some other people as well.
So Roger Vere's sitting there on the video. Why can't he say anything? Is he not allowed to?
Yeah, he's not allowed to. He's
because of it's a pending case.
He's got like a gag order.
That's fucking crazy.
It's crazy, right? Crazy. Well done on them. I'm getting the word out on this. Awesome that it's kind of getting a higher level of publicity. It's not just crypto people now. The meme is growing among the entire liberty-loving community, right? That's out there, and I do think it's making its way to the Trump administration. They're seeing this, and she's making, like really, really, valid points here. It's
But to break it down really quickly.
Oops, sorry.
It's not just about Roger Ver and evading taxes allegedly when he tried to properly leave the U.S., but it's the attorney-client privileges that the IRS just has ultimate power. Your Constitution just gets completely torn up when they want to come after you. It's insane. So I think we'll see. I think we'll see under the Trump administration. I think we'll see him get freed. Aaron Day, I think, is doing a great job getting the word out. Kudos to him. I guess he knows Roger pretty well from back in the day. It's nice to see that he's leading the charge there, right? They came after any one of us. I would hope there'd be rallying behind others. So it's nice to see that people have Roger's back passionately.
Yep.
What is unfortunate what we're seeing is that the broader Bitcoin community just completely dismisses Roger Ver because they don't like him because whatever, he was a big blocker, or he's alleging that Bitcoin has been co-opted, right? It's like, really, you're gonna hold his opinions to the point where now you're siding with the statist. And you think that Roger Ver deserves to be treated this way? You've completely lost the plot. You forgot what the war was all about, why Bitcoin was even invented in the first place, if you're rooting essentially against Roger at this point.
And as I remember, the community was quite toxic on X about this whole situation and Roger. So it's very unfortunate to see the Bitcoin community acting the way they did and the way they probably still do.
Yeah, it just reveals the hypocrisy of what a lot of these people stand for, which is just number go up. That's all they've ever cared about, was whether or not their Bitcoin price goes up.
Yeah, Bitcoin definitely feels like a cult. It's just a very toxic, emotionally invested cult. And a lot of people are very emotionally and mainly financially invested. So it's a big reason. Let's discuss now Coinbase and the fact that if you use a VPN, you can be flagged. I'm not sure as of when, but essentially Coinbase last week flagging all crypto users as a high risk because of a few fraudulent projects is discriminatory banking. Coinbase this week, criminals use VPNs, so we flag all VPN users. Let's go to this help.coinbase.com site, and they say, why can I access my account on my device? Well, VPNs, ad blockers, security software, browser extensions, etc. are preventing you from accessing your account. If you have any of these enabled, try temporarily disabling blah, blah, blah. For uninterrupted account access, and they should also add for also flagging your account as high risk. If you want to get a centralized exchange, just don't get Coinbase. Coinbase is just ridiculous. Just don't get it. I've never had it. I will never have it. I will never recommend anyone having Coinbase. It's crazy. Let's move on to, let's see. Let's move into something called Zetherium. So after the win for Tornado Cash in the Coinbase funded lawsuit last week, Balaji Srinivasan proposed that optional zero-knowledge smart contracts be made to add private transactions to Ethereum, which he called Zetherium. Let's watch this 1-minute video. And then I think we have one more video, and then couple other stuff, and that's it.
Creativity. I will say that that regardless of whether or not the approach he lays out would ultimately pass muster, I think a lot of lawyers and non-lawyers are going to be studying this opinion for years and even perhaps decades to come, given the potential impact it will have on all sorts of open source projects and development efforts globally that up until this point, up until this decision, were in peril as a result of the OFAC sanctions that were issued.
And that's actually a really good point, because another big win from this case is that we had heard that the sanctions had actually been chilling developers from basically building code and developing more privacy protocols or other critical innovation for crypto, because they were concerned that they would build code, deploy it, and then bad actors who they had no control over would misuse it and they would be held accountable. And I think this opinion actually gives them much comfort that I think they haven't had in a long time. So in that sense, that's another win from this decision last week.
But what does that really mean? Is that really privacy? If it's not private by default, I'm not going to use it because it's not really privacy, as we see in Zcash. They can just have a backdoor, turn it on and off for you, against your will, and that's it. Yeah, so for me, if it's not private by default, if it's just optional privacy, I'm good. Because if you advertise what you have to be private, I should pretty much trust it with my own life that you're going to respect my privacy. And unless I willingly go forward with making public what I have, then nobody should just touch it or do anything about it. And that's Monero. It is you that comes forward to tell other people that you have Monero or how much. Nobody else can know. And these things, they can know. They're not really private. Okay, let's go to our last video, and then we have a couple articles, and that'll be it. This one is about the strategic Bitcoin reserve proposal as a bailout to the crypto industry. It's ironic because in reality, Bitcoin is the one that would be bailing out the US government, not the other way around. This is what Predator said on X. It's a 5-minute video. We're not going to play it all, but let's watch a little bit.
Reasons Democrats and Democratic regulators have worked hard to keep crypto, which has been supremely volatile, blocked off from the rest of financial systems, so that if it crashes, it doesn't bring the entire US economy down with it, requiring a bailout. Some rich people holding a lot of crypto disagree with that strategy. They want a bailout, implicit or explicit, if the house of cards comes crashing down. To that end, after Republicans took back the Senate with the help of money from the crypto industry, they now have a plan to return the favor. And I want you to listen to this part because no one's really talking about this, but the elements of the plot are just there in plain sight. Senate Republicans are working on a bill that would transfer billions and billions of dollars of money from the US government, from taxpayers, and hand it over to a handful of big crypto holders.
We got a present for President Donald Trump. Here it is. This is the Bitcoin Reserve Bill in the Senate of the United States to establish a Bitcoin strategic reserve, a network of secure storage vaults, purchase program, and other programs to ensure the transparent management of Bitcoin holdings of the federal government.
Yes, the Bitcoin Act from Republican Senator Cynthia Lummis of Wyoming, it would establish a federal reserve of Bitcoin. It's truly one of the most audacious schemes I've ever seen in Congress. Here's why. Rich folks who own a lot of crypto have a problem, right? Cryptocurrency, Bitcoin in particular, is a very valuable asset. Single Bitcoin worth over 100 grand. Some very, very wealthy people own hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. David Sachs, for instance, has a lot of crypto. That said, it's not a liquid asset like cash that you can easily spend or invest or use for practical purposes. It has no practical use really outside of a few gimmicks, and it's very useful for criminal cartels. So if you're an investor, you're sitting on this speculative asset. You can't actually do anything with it, but it's worth a lot of money. What's more, if you try to sell it all off, right, to get rid of it, the hordes of Bitcoin on the exchanges, that's going to flood the market and tank the price. So what's the solution? They're going to sell it to the U.S. government.
Over 5 years, the United States will assemble 1 million Bitcoin, 5% of the world's supply. And it will be held for a minimum of 20 years and can be used for one purpose: reduce our debt.
Reduce our debt? You can't pay the debt down in Bitcoin.
Hey, Doug, I think, should I just play the rest? I really like this video. It's up to you.
Do it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, guys, it's 5 minutes, but I really think it's really good, and then we'll discuss it. It's very, very interesting.
Are you tracking this? Are you tracking what's being planned and announced in person here, right? The U.S. government handing billions of dollars into the pockets of rich crypto holders? The plan is that the Bitcoin Act would have the government sell off some of its gold reserves, you know, the stuff from Fort Knox, and use the...
Sorry, guys, I'm going to stop it for 1 second. Mati, thank you so much for the donation. He said, thank you guys for spreading one of the most important messages. Oh, can you put it up again, Dux?
Yeah, it should be up. Is that showing up?
Most important messages for humankind freedom. Greetings from Argentina. Thank you, Mati. Thank you so much, man. Thank you.
The money to buy.
And then we had one more, sorry. I think we had one more super chat that may have been missed from Nihilist. Shout out to Monero marketing videos explaining the concepts that make it work for non-techies. Love it. Cheers. Yeah, Vosto, they do really cool videos. I agree. Thanks, Nihilist.
Yes. Thank you, Nihilist. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Mati.
Current market value, that would cost $100 billion. Now, the actual price would likely be much higher because that market value would almost certainly rise as a result when a new buyer enters the market and boosts the price of the asset the buyer is now legally obligated to buy. This is an enormous heist. They're just backing the truck up to the government in front of all of us. A massive bailout to the crypto world. The opportunity to turn a speculative asset into real cash on your dime. And presumably David Sachs, as the crypto czar, will help usher that plan through. And there is a real irony here. For a long time, as long as I've been covering crypto, which is over a decade, advocates have sold crypto as this libertarian project, right? We don't need government. We don't need banks. We don't need financial intermediaries. We don't need regulation. Here's Sachs himself making that point on a podcast 2 years ago.
There is a huge risk of currency debasement when the government is in control, and particularly when you have the world's reserve currency. There's just such an enormous temptation to print money to finance your budget and to rack up loans that become unpayable. What Bitcoin offers is a different kind of currency where it's not backed by a government, it's backed by math, it's backed by encryption. And so you don't have to trust the government.
All of that lofty rhetoric goes right out the window, though, when Republicans decide they want the government to initiate a massive upward transfer of wealth and bail out the crypto industry.
Many points. If you're a Bitcoin maximalist, you may totally shit on what he said and make a bunch of negative comments. Now, one thing that I am going to say, yes, Bitcoin is used by criminals, but I do hope, I mean, not that I do hope, but if you were, yeah, I definitely don't hope, but if you are a smart criminal, you would use Monero because that's obviously private. If you use Bitcoin, you're quite a dumb criminal. And by this, I'm obviously not endorsing criminals to use, or I'm not endorsing their activity at all. I obviously want them to be caught and punished for what they've done. If you use Bitcoin nowadays for your criminal activities, that's quite stupid. Again, definitely not endorsing criminal activity. But
define criminal activity. You got two tips over here.
We read that one. This one's no. Okay. Donald Fisher, tip of business. Great show, guys. Thanks.
Donald, thank you.
Donald Fisher.
We saw Mati. Thank you, Mati. Nihilist.
It's an interesting take though. Overall, this guy's take. It's really funny. It's like the most, lefty take possible.
Weird.
Like, right?
It was not what I was expecting. I don't even know.
Yeah. Same. This whole situation, it just seems a bit scammy, especially with Michael Saylor gospeling to. I think
I mean, his analysis isn't incorrect. I think he's right, but
yeah,
ultimately, yeah, it's people being greedy and using their influence to get the state to do that. But we want that to happen anyway. Like it's still going to weaken the state at the end of the day, in the long run. I mean, all right. I mean, we could start to argue that Bitcoin is so co-opted that essentially it won't have the effect that we're hoping for. But yeah, that's a whole debate.
For me, it just seems like one of those high risk.
We need to see a congressional act where they're out there, some senator, someone's out there. I'm going to pass the Monero is Cash Act, right? Or call it whatever you want. But that would be the real breakthrough, right? That would be the moment to celebrate when the U.S. government comes out and says we're treating crypto like cash, right? We're treating crypto like cash. We're not treating it any differently. You have the freedom to use whatever medium of exchange you want to use. Sure, you still got to pay your taxes, just like was done in cash economies. But we're viewing crypto as cash. You're free to use it. Go forth. That would be the breakthrough moment.
Let us know what you think in the comments on YouTube. I'm paying attention to YouTube, or hop on the viewers on stage section, and let us know what you think. I'm really interested. Now, moving on, just got a couple, but we'll go through them a bit faster. I want to talk about the rise of extremism, first in Eastern Europe, but not only in Western Europe and even in America. So last week, talked about the Romanian election and how this candidate right here, he essentially, with the help of Putin and his friends, he became number one, and he was close to winning. We were going to have this weekend the last part of the election between him and another candidate, and I really hope that he was not going to win. But they canceled the election, and Tate posted that he said they want to arrest the number one presidential candidate in Romania for being on TikTok. Supposedly, he used TikTok for money laundering and to influence the population with Russian propaganda. Now, DCOT have opened a file on him. Any of this sound familiar? And maybe you've seen it on X, maybe you've seen it in the US on the news, and I want to just talk about it over quick, and then we'll expand again to the Western world. First of all, he did use Putin's money on TikTok, and if you were in Romania on TikTok, you could watch some cat videos, somebody making oatmeal, and you will see hashtag his name. It was extremely inorganic. His videos were absolutely everywhere. You would go on accounts, they would post just once with him and then never again about him. He publicly said that he spent zero money on the election, which is, for an independent candidate, that's outrageous. I mean, you have to have some spending, and he had millions of euros in spending. He had a lot of money from his friends, and I don't like what Tate said, because people are now saying, some people are saying and are watching these and say, he's anti-establishment, when he really isn't. He is one of those extremist people that said that there's knowledge in Russia. He's copying Putin. Putin was on a horse a couple years ago, on the white horse. He did it too. Putin was in a frozen lake. He did it too. Putin was doing judo, practicing judo. He did it as well. Just copying whatever he does. And also, he was quoting exactly from one of the dictators that we used to have, which is very frightening during our kind of fascist era, World War II, where we joined Germany because we were too scared to join Russia again, because we knew what was going to happen. And the people that we had at the time, they sent the Jews and the Gypsies to the concentration camps in Transnistria. And he said those are martyrs, those are heroes, plus a bunch of other. He said if you drink Pepsi, if you drink whatever, they have a bunch of nanochips that go into your body. His wife is as crazy as him. So he's not anti-establishment as they make him seem. And the thing, and now we see something interesting, is that I didn't think that I was going to see a comeback of communism and fascism. I heard my family talk about it. I never thought that I could maybe relive it. And if this guy got elected on this Monday, now they canceled the election, it's going to be postponed until next year. I drove a couple hours just to vote, and and they should have caught it way earlier. But yeah, it would have been horrible. Putin's strategy right now is to denatify and de-Europeanize neighboring countries to join him. That's what he's trying to do. That's what he did to Georgia. They were on the European path, and then they were swayed away. That's what they're trying to do with us as well. They try to take over us. They try to put the Russian boot over us for hundreds of years, and I don't think it's going to happen. They were free, but the most concerning thing is that the propaganda is so strong, and it's very important whether you're in the US or Europe to learn about communism, fascism, and what happened, because you can catch it. We saw extremist thinking coming in America as well, and it's certainly in Europe. We have AfD political party in Germany, and they want to get out of the European Union as well. And in a bunch of different countries as well. It's a danger. And also, this guy advocated for a dictatorship. He advocated for no parties, essentially, the dissolution of parties. So yeah, that's what happened with us. It's going to be postponed, and the reason why I wanted to bring it up again is because it seems to be this extremist thinking is on the rise again. And 2/3, so a lot of the people, 52%, voted. And out of those 52%, well, the other 48%, you should have voted. You really should have, because it was very important. Because now it's not only about the corrupt people. Now you have the rise of these extremist people. But 2/3 voted with extremist parties. So now we have 3 extremist parties that were elected, which is very concerning. And look what they're doing. They're commemorating Cornelius Eliacudreanu, which he used to be on the side of Hitler during World War II. And they're doing Nazi greetings and all these crazy things. And I know people that are actually, because they reject these things, and they go with all this misinformation. And for them, I guess for Christmas, what I'll give you is the Communist Manifesto and Mein Kampf, if that's what you want to have. And quick picture, that's Putin on a horse. That's that guy on a horse. It's wild.
He's a mini Putin operative.
Yeah.
It's a Putin operative.
It's very scary. To be honest, these were the 2 most stressful weeks of my life, because if he got elected, then I might have to do military, or might not be able to go back, because then I would be forced to do military. And if and if you just look, so we have Moldova to the right of Romania. We are part of the EU, whether you like it or not. It's not perfect, and I don't think it's perfect. And I'm not glorifying NATO and all these, and Germany and whatever. I don't, because they have a lot of crazy people and they do a lot of crazy stuff. But Moldova is now trying to join the European. Are they part of the EU? I'm not sure. I think they are. I think they're trying to join NATO right now. I think that's what they're trying to do. But they still have the Russian boot, and they're trying to sway away from it. But you can see, because they're not doing well. They're very poor, and they still speak mixed Russian with. So, and then this Germany with AfD, it's not talking about it directly, but AfD is one of those extremist parties in Germany. And Germany is in the heart of Europe. It's one of the biggest economies in Europe, and this organization was to just get out of the European Union. It's insane. Quickly, Georgia police is very brutal, and they're beating and shooting and massacring everybody in Georgia, because they were going the European path. And it's the same strategy that they've done in Moldova, in Georgia. For us, same. This one party or individual out of nowhere comes and wins somehow. Same propaganda and same all this stuff. So if you see it on the news in America, this is essentially what's going on. And
Yeah, it's hard enough to figure out what the hell's going on here, let alone these other countries. That's the problem, man. It's all charades and psyops coming from both sides, and we're just stuck in the middle, right?
Yeah.
So
It is
I don't
hard.
know.
For the past couple of months, I've been reading more history about just the beginning of each country.
Get the people to opt out over there in Romania, man. Get them to opt out.
Yeah.
That's what we need to do all over the world, obviously.
Yeah.
For
So,
peace tip, 25 cents. The European path, aka NATO membership, is what plunged Ukraine first into civil war, then into war with Russia. Listen to Dave Smith or Scott Horton. Romania should remain neutral. It's a good point. It's a good point.
yes, because Putin sees it as we're expanding the NATO into his territory. But for me, I still think Putin is a very intellectual but psychotic individual, to be quite honest. But he's very, very intellectual. He's very strategic. But I don't want to deal with Russia anymore. Never again. So
I tend to agree with Scott Horton's analysis of things. He's on top of these concepts. But yeah, I don't know, man. And you're living it. You're living the actual real world effects of it. So thank you, Tony. Appreciate your perspective on everything, and thank you for the news as always. Fantastic job.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. And I wanted to say we have 300 people on X. That's awesome. Thank you, guys. 53 on YouTube. And again, helps us a lot. Just like, retweet, we're at 10K. And hopefully soon we're going to celebrate 100K and so on. So, yeah. Thank you, guys.
All right. Let's move it along, because I have to kind of fade into the background a little bit in a couple of minutes here. I have a hard stop. I'll be listening, but I won't really be able to participate much. I will be on the move. So let's move it along. Tux, you want to roll viewers on stage? And I see Alaska backstage. Maybe is he down to be today's special guest? I know we were going to try to do that last week, and then he's got a thumbs up. And Tux, you'll be around to engage with Alaska as our special guest before we break into viewers on stage. Is that cool?
For a little bit.
For a little bit, all right. Yeah, let's do it. I'm sure Alaska's got a lot to say, fresh off of Monerotopia.
All right. Sorry.
Let's do it.
There we go.
The Monerotopia guest segment is sponsored by Cake Wallet. Store, send, receive, and exchange your Monero and Bitcoin safely on iOS and Android too. Cake Wallet is open source, and you always control your own keys.
All right, let's bring Alaska up as a special guest. We don't, we just take advantage of this guy. Like he's not special around here.
I feel like I'm taking advantage of you because I get to be the guest on the official Doug is now the face of Monero with his 10,000 subscribers.
No, that's not good. That's not good. Biggest sucker in crypto.
You should have found yourself like a more appropriate guest, like, Elon or something, because, you're like a celebrity now, right? Like you're the big cheese of the Monero movement,
We should be at least like 15K. Give me 15K. It
always
took so long to get to 10K, man. I don't know. We're definitely like I don't know.
Well, the thing about being a guy in
the
the privacy space is I would be willing to bet like 99% of your viewers are using front ends like NewPipe or whatever.
Yeah, nobody's on Google using YouTube, subscribing.
A bunch of people I work with actually watch this show pretty regularly, and not a single one of them would ever be able to subscribe or anything like that, because how could they? There's no accounts. There's no,
Listen, the much more important metric, right? Like when we have Monerotopias, we get freedom-loving, passionate people to show up, and that's because of this platform, because of the show. There's people out there with 100,000 subscribers. If they were to throw an event for their shitcoin or whatever it is,
You know,
I can't
Monerotopia had more guests, like more people showed up for Monerotopia than showed up for the largest gold conference in the United States. So technically, Monerotopia is already bigger than the gold conferences. So, I mean, most gun shows don't have as many people as Monerotopia did either. So, I mean, you've already made it. Like as far as it's
we made it.
You know,
We made it, man.
Yeah, but like the face of Monerotopia is officially you. Like it's a fact of reality. So
We got to swap you in there, man. You need.
I think a prettier face is definitely ideal. You know what I'm saying? Like it's so. Well done, sir. You did it.
Thank you, man. Thank you. No, we really did pull in a good crowd though with Monerotopia, and we pulled in like Bitcoiners, man. We had Shinobi that came, and this is while that Bitcoin event was happening in El Salvador. People were kind of rebelling against that and coming to Monerotopia. We had some big Bitcoin names that came in, which was I was impressed that the word kind of spread to that point.
The one that we just. I mean, imagine how peak clown world we've arrived at, where I find myself advocating for Chris Hayes's view of things, right? Like the MSNBC money guy is like more right about finances than like Donald Trump. You know, it's just like, what is going on? You know, like he's pointing out like the hypocrisy of the Libertarian Party, while the Libertarian Party itself is just like wearing their MAGA caps and championing state money acquisitions. And I'm just like, what is going on right now? Like it's truly peak clown world, right? Where like Monero's advocating for more delistings and Bitcoiners are like, we need more government handouts. And I'm just like, there's something just horribly wrong with what's going on right now. Like,
listen, guys, I got to take a little bit of backseat here. And I got to make moves. Tux, can you step up and run this with Alaska, and then bring up viewers?
All right.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't mind chatting with Alaska a little bit about Monerotopia before you bring people up, but I'm sure we'll continue down that path.
Yeah. Were you here last week, Alaska? Did you get to recap at all?
I only got to be here for a couple of minutes last week, because I've been doing other podcasts to try to spread the word, like especially after it started before Monerotopia, but a lot of people, like going back a while, actually had been asking me to do a podcast about this or that, usually Monero related. And I'm kind of limited to weekends most of the time because, for one, the time zone that I'm in makes it harder for a lot of people. But then also, I really only have the weekend, right? Like it's, I have kind of a hard cutoff on like making sure I spend time with my kids throughout the week too and stuff.
He's a family man, and he's getting that bread.
Yeah, you gotta get the bread. You give it to your family, and you preach the good news, the gospel of FOSS software and Monero. And I did a show about like how Christianity and Monero kind of line up. But that was interesting because it's something that I personally have been passionate about for a while, but I try not to bring it into people that might not, be super interested in it. But a gentleman from the Christian world who's also a Monero advocate, we did a whole thing on the idea of sound money principles in the Bible.
Who was that with again? I saw
Monero Master.
Monero Master.
The guy is absolutely, for one, he's really good at like editing and making his videos pretty and all that stuff. He's the other thing is like he clearly put a lot of time into doing his homework ahead of the interview, and then did even more afterwards. And it's very clean. And one of the things about it, for one, if you are a Christian, I really hope that you will listen to it. But if you're not a Christian, I strongly encourage people to familiarize themselves with the arguments, because the reality is there's more of a compelling argument for Christians to get out of fiat and into Monero than there is for even like some of the basic libertarian philosophies and all of that. there are commandments in the Bible that specifically tell you not to get involved in usury, that specifically tell you to only use sound money. And to a point, I would argue that Monero is even better than gold as far as adhering to those principles. But we cover a lot of other things too, like some things in Proverbs about inheritance and so on. And even if you're not in this for the Christian principles, having it available to you to share with people who are Christians would go a really long way with adoption. And this guy is just like criminally underfollowed, right? Like he's an incredible journalist. He really does his homework. He puts the time in. And the thing is like he's not getting the kind of traction that I think he way beyond deserves, right? And then I did another one with this the Matt and Austin podcast before Monerotopia started, and one of the reasons why I apologized for my lateness, even though I try to be here every week, I just did one with Gabriel Custodiate of the Watchman Privacy podcast. So I've been just trying to kind of get the message out there. And I worry a lot about how Monero is starting to do that thing that Bitcoin did, where it's crypto anarchists and cypherpunks selling to other crypto anarchists and cypherpunks. And the goal is to get it to the people, which is one of the reasons why, like, Ray Youssef, for example, I think is an absolute Chad, right? Because he's way more obsessed with what we should be doing, which is getting Monero into the hands of the people and teaching them how to. And by the way, like, in my mind, you have solidified yourself as a legend forever, right? Because even in spite of the fact that this, like, Monerotopia is basically work for you, right? And you were already putting in these crazy long hours. And guys, he was sick as a dog too. Like, and he just kept showing up. And
oh yeah, dude, I got sick. I just got, it wasn't, I know some other people that got worse than me. They got like food poisoning. It wasn't that bad, but yeah.
Well, naturally you're going to say that because you're a humble man, but people like Tux was out there helping people use their cake wallets, finding bugs, bringing them to the right attention of the right people, like just fighting tooth and nail every single day to try to find a way, all while trying to put together like his presentation and all of this other like highly technical things. So and just so you know, you can donate at tux.pizza to the man himself. He does accept Monero. I don't know if he still has the wallet because the plane, some bags got lost. He might, but either way, you know, you can donate to tux.pizza to further support his crusade against financial tyranny. But yeah,
I'll take this opportunity to show the .xmr domains you can buy on Unstoppable Domains. Cake, we have a we had some communication with Unstoppable, and we were able to get them to start selling .xmr. You can, they start very cheap. You buy it once, you own it forever. The way it should be.
And I mean, just look at this guy. Like, I'm trying to shill his donation, and he immediately pivots to, you know.
Well, I'll wrap around to your point is that you can add your XMR address to that XMR domain. You can put it in Cake Wallet. So you can type in, like, I think I have tux.xmr.
Nice.
And that'll pull up an address, basically. And you can buy one yourself and do the same thing. It's very great.
Yeah, it was the thing about the conference that was really eye-opening to me is like, I had gone to Bitcoin conferences back when I was much more obsessed with my personal privacy and so on. And like, everything would be done on Lightning, or, you know, it was like there were people who were there for Bitcoin that were only accepting fiat and stuff like that. And meanwhile, like, just straight up volunteers, right? Like, you know, shout out to Drunk Dial Me, for example. I mean, you know, the power lifter himself, right? You know, like, actively trying to help vendors, you know, set up their first wallets and, you know, people donating like the first XMR payment to the vendors, so they had some and got to try it and all this other stuff. But I had kind of touched on it before, and I won't rehash the whole thing, but that was the first crypto conference, which I've been to many. Well, Monerotopia just generally is the only crypto conference that I've ever seen where people were showing up completely green to the entire crypto ecosystem. And one lady I had pointed out before didn't even know how to use email, had never been using a smartphone, and flew from Fairbanks, Alaska to learn how to use Monero at the conference. It wasn't like, I'm here for the gains, I'm here for the price pump, blah, blah, blah. It was, I'm here for the freedom, show me how to use this freedom tech. You just don't see that anywhere else, right? And that's why, like, with the limited time that I have available to me, this is the conference that I go to, right? Because this is the one that's fighting the freedom cause right now, and like having results and getting vendors on board and taking it to places that need it the most, right? Like Mexico is a prime example of a place that would benefit greatly from using Monero. And not only that, but the financial boot is already on their throats, as we saw from, you know, the very kosher election of the last president. So, like,
yeah, and I think the important aspect of that too is that a lot of the, I guess what you would consider more second and third world countries, they recognize the need for something like Monero even better than people from the United States do, because we just have it better in general, even though we have same corruption issues. It's just seen more because of the poverty in some of the countries like Mexico. And so they're more willing to get on board with that quicker, without you having to convince them why it matters. They already understand to a higher degree why something like that matters.
And you know, if Monerotopia, I mean, yes, there's a Bitcoin conference in El Salvador right now, or was one or whatever, but the thing is like Monerotopia is the one that's willing to go to these places and make these things happen. And it's the conference is made up of the people, and everybody who's there, like, even though you could probably have a better time at Monerotopia than literally anywhere else, right? Like, the world is your oyster. You can eat whatever you want. You can, you know, participate in whatever illicit activities you may want. And yet people would show up there, and their first question is, how can I help? Like, can I volunteer in any way? And then the other thing is that I would leave, you know, like, let's say a Bitcoin conference or whatever. And in theory, it was like, okay, we can talk to each other. Let's stay in touch. But with Monerotopia, like, almost everybody has tried to stay in touch. And it's honestly like the upper limit of how many people you can stay in touch with is where we're at, you know? People talking about coming to visit me here, like on the off time or whatever. Like, people, they're staying in touch to build a community, right? And people that I didn't know before. Like, in fact, yesterday I had a meeting about like certain vendors of agriculture products, and I don't know how much they want to share, but working on a system where they can accept Monero, but their interest isn't accepting Monero and then getting out of it. Their interest is accepting Monero and then keeping the circulating economy going. Like, these are things that you just don't hear other places. Like, people in this culture, people in this fight, they want the freedom. You know, like, it's a totally different vibe. It's a totally different world. And you could see it also. I was doing a lot with on and off ramp at the conference. And each time people wanted out less and less and less. They were keeping more Monero than they did the previous day. They were, you know, they were using it too, you know, and the fact that the devs are there, you know, and I would consider you like a huge part of just the general dev team of Monero, right? Like, trying to make wallet software work for the people who need it the most, right? You know, the devs, even after like a 15-hour day of just working their asses off, going and looking at like, okay, well, what's going on with this person, you know? And like, in the rest of the world of software, and it was the case in Monero not that long ago, but all of a sudden it's no longer this like tech elitist, the tech bro mentality of it's broken because you're using it wrong. The devs are having the humility to say it's broken because they want to use it this way and we're not making it possible for them, right? Which is how it's supposed to be. The user is never the bug, right? The software should allow the user to do what they want to do, or there should be a way that other software is allowing them to do what they want to do.
Unless they don't save their seed, then I'm sorry, we can't help
Yeah.
you.
Well, I mean, like there has to be like a cutoff, of course, like the underlying design of, the crypto itself, like a certain level of compliance to the existing ecosystem has to be attained, or do you even really want to use Monero, right? But
yeah, but even then, we're going to make improvements to that process as well. Help
yeah,
users
and
get
that's part of the thing, right? It's where it's like there has to be a way where like the devs are at least meeting in the middle, or they're coming up with some kind of solution to and I don't know if he wants me to share his name here, but one particular developer of a particular wallet was highly receptive to this conversation, which is a huge anomaly, right? Where, devs are just too proud of the work that they've done to admit that the usability of their software is a bug, right? Or another one that I found was like there were techniques and utility available in a wallet that nobody even knew existed, which is another layer, which it's like Monero, the marketing side of Monero. If I, as like, I mean, I'm kind of like up there with Doug, right? Where it's like, I'm like as close to a power user as the Monero community has, right? I'm trying to use it every day. I'm trying to onboard people every day. If even I don't know like more convenient ways to share wallet information and stuff, because I just literally don't even know it exists. If the devs are going to go through all the trouble of making this unbelievably convenient way for me to use like Monero wallet links and so on, and then I never even hear about it, even though I'm using it every day, like we have a marketing problem with the fact that we have this incredible tech and this incredible usability that's available to people that even the power users don't know exists, right? Like BirdPay is amazing, right? And if it weren't for people like you and Vic even just going out there and like using it and demonstrating it and like being loud, like, hey, this is something that you can do with Cake Wallet on Twitter, right? I certainly wouldn't know about it. I mean, I don't use Twitter and I know about it thanks to you guys, but like we have to find a way to share with each other what is possible now. Like there's so many people who have no idea what's possible now. And that was kind of one of the last interviews that I just did was about, which is like, okay, if I want to get out of the banking system, right? For those of you who don't know, I was debanked like forever ago. And people asking me like, okay, well, if I'm not in the banking system, how do I this, that, and the other? Simple luxuries that we have now that I didn't have back then, right? Like coin cards, right? I mean, they're amazing. And Cake Wallet has a bunch of stuff like that built right into it. Like you want to use Monero to buy whatever right here, right now at this place, you can, right? And yet, like, where would you go to find an online tutorial? Where would you go to? And this is one of the places where the listening audience, we need you to step up, okay? Like, if you think you could make a video on this is how I use my Cake Wallet to buy a gift card, or this is how I like, people need to make those easy to follow video tutorials that allow a person. I mean, you can't just leave it up to Tux, you know what I'm saying? Like, which there are some great tutorials done by Tux, by the way. But it's like, do you want him working on the wallet or do you want him teaching guys how to use it, right? Like, if you want them working on the wallet, then that means you need to start teaching people how to use it. Like you can't.
Yeah, I kind of realized the same thing after doing the because I had 2 graph video workshops while I'm there, and you can show stuff to people like in person there, and that's very helpful because they can ask questions as you're doing something. But everyone was asking me, do you have a video? Right? Because I want to be able to replicate this at home, go back. And so, yeah, it's important that I realize now even more, like I knew videos were great. But even more so now, it's important to have very clear step-by-step instructions. Like written out is good, but also videos, I think, do a better job at promoting it as well, because a video is something that's easy to watch. Be like, oh yeah, just watch this video. So yeah, that's something we'll definitely try doing more for Cake going forward. We have some videos. There's some videos that have me in it that I've done on the Cake Wallet channel for various stuff. But we'll have to do more going forward. Some of them are out of date. And I'm basically redoing all the documentation for Cake Wallet right now that we have on the guides website. I'm redoing that to update it, make it better, more clear, hopefully more organized, make it easier for people to get into it. But yeah, that's a really good point, is that a lot of people, they want it, they want access to it. They just need somebody who knows how it works, and it's easy for them to show it, and they just need to be able to see how it's done and how to use it.
There are people who love Monero that would love to see the community grow that are not the socialites. I mean, think about just the nature of Monero in general. Like, we're talking about private people, right? And there are a lot of people who are private for reasons of like social aloofness too, right? And if you want to turn that guy into a marketing expert, you have to provide him with materials that this person can share with their friends. They don't want to sit there and awkwardly teach people how to use their whatever, right? They want to be able to, this works for me. It works really well. Here's a video of a guy explaining it better than I could. And once again, I know that there's people who listen to the show every day that have it in them to be able to do that. Pick one thing, make the video. And in fact, you could just be the guy recording it and then have a, like a camera watching your phone or whatever. And then you could even pass all of that over to an editor. Maybe there's an editor chat out there that, will handle it from there. But collect with your fellow Monero colleagues, get it out there, and watch adoption explode, right? And the best time, like if we had these videos ready to go right now, then Monero price pumps 20-30%. People are starting to look for it. The first thing they're going to see is like, okay, well, how do I get some? How do I use it? Where's the XMR Bazaar video on this is how you can get, no KYC Monero? Like, go sell your whatever. I loved the Swoops has been all over it since the conference, right? Where going to thrift stores, buying up stuff in thrift stores, and then putting it on XMRBazaar.com.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because the thing is like thrift stores are a highly localized thing. This is the perfect price arbitrage thing, because you buy a fancy suit for $20-30 at a thrift store, and then other people would value that much higher, right? $100, $150. And you're not going to have all of the sizes unless a bunch of people are doing it, right? All over the country. And all of a sudden you're creating this beautiful ecosystem of, I can buy something from a thrift store halfway around the world and get it shipped to me. It adds a lot of value to my life. It adds a lot of value to the person who's doing the shopping. They can get their hands on some Monero without getting into all of these KYC exchanges and all that trash. And you're strengthening the circular economy. This is like easily the most important place for us to be focusing, is on these places where it's immediately a circular economy, right? I'm providing a service. I'm providing a product. You're providing me with Monero. I get in, you get the value that you hope to get out of your Monero. And then on the other side, like, everybody talks about farmers markets or vendors or whatever. And that's true. But if vendors are going to start carrying this stuff, then that means that there has to be the guy who will have a meeting with such and such vendor and be like, yes, you should take XMR for these reasons. And then taking the time to show them how they can take XMR and where they can post it, where people who want to use Monero would be able to find it, right? There has to be these men and women in the middle that are closing that gap between the person who would be interested in selling and the person who would be interested in using their Monero. And we can all do that, and it can't just be Tux. We need everybody to do their part every day.
Although I want to do more.
And you
I
should.
will be. Yeah, I should. Exactly. And I do have an in-depth Graphene OS series I'm working on. But I mean, that's the thing too, is that, you know, we've got some videos for stuff here and there. Don't be discouraged if there's videos for specific things that already exist. I mean, the more people, there's a lot of talented people, and the more people that are creating high quality content about Monero, privacy, whatever, the more traction it'll get. And, you know, stuff gets out of date sometimes. So sometimes it's nice to refresh something. And the more people that do it, the more visibility it will get.
Yeah, I mean, what would we do without the people who are already doing it? How would the person listening have even heard about Monero if somebody didn't do it?
Exactly. I would have never found out about Monero if it wasn't for people like Seth doing his podcast, and then Doug, of course, doing Monerotopia and Monero Talk show, because that's kind of how I got into Monero and learned a lot about it, is just by listening to these podcasts while working at the time when I had a more of a manual labor job. We got a couple super chats here. Private one tipped $1. I second AKAnon. Doug has many more followers, except true Monero bros banned YouTube, so you don't see the true numbers. It is a very good point. And if there's another platform that you guys want to maybe see us stream on more prominently, let us know. It's harder because it might not be integrated with StreamYard, but we can still do custom outputs, stream outputs. So let us know. Fiat Demise tipped 50 cents. Adam Curry, dude, Podcast 2.0 guys. Yeah. No Agenda was a show I listened a ton to when I was working as well. It's a great show. They're serious about sending value with Monero in addition to Lightning. Have they talked about, episode 2 or 3 has multiple Monero mentions. Interesting. Would be awesome to start wallet integration with the podcast app. I hadn't ever turned up talk about Monero. That's very interesting. That's a big deal. Yeah, there's something that could definitely happen there. Maybe they'd be interested in XMRChat, but with a version that works better for podcasting with audio. And Neil has tipped $1.23. Tutorials are there to make it easier for people to understand the why and what and the how. First goal is to show that it is possible. Second goal is to convey the message more efficiently. Simplify as much as you can. Lower the skill access barrier. Yep, totally.
And you know, there's all of these target audiences that are being ignored. So with Monero, we've done a decent job of trying to make it like available to the unbanked, right? But I would point out that we as a community could do so much better, like so much better. So for example, anytime there's like a news story or whatever on this person's bank account being closed, or you could start with just a comment in, you know, some comment field or whatever. If you set up a Monero wallet, I'll donate to it, or something, you know, like where it's like the idea of calling the bluff, right? Where when tyrants try to exercise all of this additional authority, we made huge progress with the trucker protest, right? Rode on the coattails of people saying, "Oh, should have used Bitcoin," and I was like, "No, should have used Monero," right? Now, I as a guy who works in the trucking industry, I was a lot closer to be able to handle this stuff, right? But the people who did adopt Monero at the Canadian trucker protest, they stayed in Monero, right? The people who tried to do it with Bitcoin, a lot of people had a cold reality check when it came to what happens when you use a transparent blockchain to resist the banks and the government, you know. And I'm not saying that Bitcoin didn't do exactly what it's designed to do. It absolutely did. But as predicted, they went after the accounts, they went after the exchanges, they went after the people. They don't have to go after the Bitcoin to win that fight. And that's our chance to say, look at what privacy can do for you, right? And there's an example of this kind of stuff every single day. And it, you know, the better we are at riding these clown world moments, I guess you could say, where it's like, This person couldn't pay their mortgage because the bank wouldn't accept it or whatever, right? That's your chance to be like, there's other solutions that already exist. Why do we even comply with these people? Burn it to the ground and switch to Monero, right? Like that's our chance to, what do they call it? The zeitgeist, right? That's our chance to hit the cultural zeitgeist.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, it could only really go up from here. And Monero at this point in time, it seems like it's pretty solidified as being one of the, maybe not big players, but like well-known players in crypto. And it's kind of kept that even with its price suppression, even though it hasn't gone to the moon, which is good. That shows that people are valuing it and using it for its utility, and they're realizing that they actually, surprise, you actually need privacy in a currency. You don't want to have everything just on a public ledger for everyone else to see.
Mm-hmm. And all of this wishful thinking about like, well, if the government uses Bitcoin, blah, 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 it's like, because clearly the problem is we need to catch the government being criminals more, right? It's like, there's not massive body of evidence that already exists, right? Like this, I mean, like these people need to lay off the crack pipe, you know? It's like the government doesn't care when you catch them in criminal activity because they already control the money supply. You take away control of the money supply, you know, and once again, like who would have thought, of all people, Chris Hayes is like the Monero champion all of a sudden, because he's the only one saying like, where are your libertarian principles now? You know, it's like, here we are, right? Like it's full circle. Like all of the nerds got their seat at the cool kids table, and so they can't wait to lick that government boot. I mean, it is like the most polished boot ever at this point. So yeah. Crypto is, it's kind of crazy, and it's cool, but it's also sad to ultimately see what's kind of, it's been like co-opted sort of as an industry into. I for one embrace our new clown world reality. I think it's great, right? What a time to be alive, right? And it's like we all have the chance to be heroes right now. Not every generation gets this huge number of opportunities to stand against tyranny and point out that the emperor has no clothes, build something better, build something different. You know, in like the 1970s, if you would have been trying to set up a parallel economy in the United States, people would have been like, blah, 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 rah, rah, America, freedom, this and that, and whatever. Like they would have never even accepted the fact that, you know, the Orwellian nightmare was fully entrenching itself right before their very eyes. And now it's like, you know, even our lizard people overlords are more than happy to just slap you in the face with what kind of tyrants they're willing to be. You know, so like you don't have to go through all the process of like proving that there's this corruption and this wickedness going on in the world. Like even grandma down the street doesn't trust her bank anymore. Like what a chance to make a difference. There's never been a better chance to make a difference. And so when y'all get to meet with Jesus and tell him what you did with your life, you have no excuse. You know what I'm saying? Like you had every chance to do the right thing and make a difference and improve the world around you. I should probably stop ranting because I don't want to hog the viewers on stage part of the thing, but like, no, I agree though. I agree. Yeah, usability, getting the word out there, like doing outreach tutorials. And as people, I think as time goes on, like even in the US, people are waking up and realizing, oh shit, you know, we actually need something that's like, and the government actually does bad stuff. Whoa, surprise. You know, people are starting to slowly finally realize what's going on. And that they need sovereignty over their money. They need financial privacy. There was one other thing that Doug had said about like, you know, the utility of a higher Monero price that I almost forgot to say that I wanted to say right away, which was the higher the price of Monero goes, the more expensive a 51% attack becomes for the handful of people that could theoretically pull it off. That's another thing that people need to recognize about the price of Monero.
That's a very good point.
And it really doesn't have to go up by much because it's exponentially more difficult to pull off with each tiny move in the price. And I just want to remind people, it's already like a tiny number of organizations that could even do it, and they would have to put a lot of effort into it. But you know, if you see a price for Monero at like 500, 600, 800 USD, now even the people who could theoretically pull it off, which is an ever smaller pool of people, so you know who to blame, right? It becomes ever increasingly difficult for them to actually pull it off. And then the other thing, I mean, in theory, you know, you could also walk back a few blocks or whatever, like the community could easily mitigate a lot of the damage of the attack. But that said, ideally, it can't even happen. And so the higher the price, the better it is. The higher the price, the more novel ways of mining Monero that people start to exploit, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. It also solidifies the security of the hash rate, because that same 0.6 XMR reward, well, suddenly that's worth 2-3 times what it was before. Suddenly the hash rate's going to go up a lot, and there's going to be a lot more people who are participating in mining because it's actually profitable now. The cost of mining is more than making up for the electricity cost in more places.
And, you know, I just want to point out the Nodo thing again, right? Where, I mean, where the Nodo is right now, it's definitely like there's still kind of a tech gap for being able to use it properly. I got to play with it at Monerotopia. It's amazing. But the thing is those who are technically proficient should definitely be jumping on as quickly as possible. But even for those who are not technically proficient, for one, there's still value to be gleaned from it. But more important than ever is this idea of more open source, right? So the software level, the FOSS community has pretty much licked that one, right? Like switching to Linux is super easy. Using a graphene phone, I mean, we are no longer in the Pine phone days, people. Like now getting your hands on a graphene phone, we still have a lot of ground to cover, right? And then it's still a technical process to make it a graphene phone. So there's that too. But once you have a graphene phone, using it is just mind-blowingly easy, right? Like it's awesome. So on the like all the way to the operating system level, FOSS software is winning, but hardware is still a big gap in the armor of freedom. And what is happening with the Nodo, this is the thing that excites me even more than the implications for Monero, right? Because Monero people, a lot of them can already spin up a node on all kinds of stuff, right? And the utility there is putting a node in the hands of somebody who doesn't know about like the technical aspect of running a node, right? But way more important than that, we see once again the Monero community on the absolute bleeding edge of putting more FOSS hardware, right? Like into the hands of an ever decreasing scale of technical proficiency. And by the way, you know, I've said this before, but on an absolute shoestring budget, right? Like other people who have tried this have spent millions and millions and millions more and failed. And I mean, let's be honest, 4 guys, right? And I mean, Doug was more like a finance or cheerleader kind of guy. I mean, we're honestly talking about 2 guys working with practically nothing have managed to accomplish on a far smaller budget what people with millions of dollars couldn't do, right? I mean, on slightly more complicated projects, but the point still stands, right? You can get a piece of hardware that is using the highest level of principles that you can theoretically do right now to put open source hardware into the hands of the normie to be used for financial privacy. Like, this is a huge step in the direction that we as a people want to be in, right? So even if you don't plan on using one of these things, like if you're a wealthy individual, buy one and send it to a guy who has technical savvy, right? Or because the thing is this is a place where you can put, relatively speaking, not very much money. You can actually drive the open source hardware movement way ahead of where it is right now to do something that actually matters right now. And then that opens the door for those same guys to maybe build a team of guys doing it and focus on even bigger projects like miners and so on. The world is our oyster if this project is successful. Okay. And so far it has been quite successful, especially considering what he launched it like 9 months ago or something like that. But I mean, even like Google, when they were trying to build a phone, it took them like 4 years to put one out, you know?
Yeah, Moneronodo is pretty cool project, and what's cool about it is how custom it is. They didn't just go and use some existing mini PC design. They have a very it's quite a custom design that they had to specifically get manufactured, which is cool. Now I think it's using a similar processor to what's in the
Pies,
like the Pine 64. It's a bit more powerful. It's a lot more powerful than the Raspberry Pi actually. But the overall design of the board, to my understanding, is custom. And the rest of the device, it's been customized, so it's got specific all the parts together is specific to the Nodo. With the specs and everything.
If we don't do this, you guys, like the reality is this is the best path that I see forward for kicking down the door of the hardware oligopoly. Okay, like, and I don't see any other project trying to balance those two things quite as effectively, which is getting good hardware into the hands of the people, but sticking to your ethics and your principles. And this, you'll never know, right? Like, so something like the Nodo, if it were to take off, might, I mean, maybe somebody like B-Link or whatever is going to take a note of this. Like, here's something similar to a mini PC that's using better ethics, right? Or, you know, like we have out there, you know, the Nova Customs of the world, or the System 76 people out there, and they're trying really hard. But the other question that I have for those guys, respectfully, and thank you for what you do, but the question I have for those guys is, why are you just trying to do what other guys are doing, but make it like open source, right? And one of the reasons why I really like, for example, the framework direction is they're trying to capitalize on something that the other guys are not doing, making your own PC, you know, like custom designs, reusability, swappable batteries, stuff like that. And the funny thing is now phones are going to have to use things like, you know, swappable batteries and standard IO and all of that stuff. But we should be leading that stuff. Right? Like the freedom movement should be ahead of this kind of thing. We should be offering people what they can't get in other places. Capture market share by being the only one in the market and using ethical principles the entire way. And, you know, one thing that I absolutely love about the way Vic does business, right? When somebody points out a problem with, for example, Cake Wallet, the guy doesn't get on the defensive and be like, I'm the only guy out there, blah, 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 this and that. He listens, he responds, and he's like, let me see what we can do about that, right? Like, I hope that anyone else trying to pioneer something or make something that they themselves want will then take that feedback, because the tech world, like when they criticize hard, right? I mean, they've got some teeth, you know, like they have very mean things to say sometimes or whatever. And if you're one of those guys, maybe come off it a little bit, you know, don't be so hostile when you're pointing out the flaws of something. maybe understand what it takes to get as far as some of these guys have, and show a little gratitude while you're, flaming them on the internet or whatever. But what we could all learn from a case study like Vic at Cake Wallet is see through the hostility and listen to the substance of the complaint or the argument or whatever it is, and try to grow as a company and as a person into fixing those problems, no matter how the person said it, right? Because passionate people are often hostile people. Those passionate people may become your strongest advocates later on, so treat them with respect that maybe at that particular moment in time they don't even deserve, and watch the relationships grow, watch the trust get built, because we all want a high trust society in the end, right? If somebody's making a good point, don't dismiss it because they're hostile. Maybe they're a little jaded. I don't know. Maybe their dog died this morning. You don't know why they're so angry. Listen to the substance of the argument and act on it. And then we can all go forward much more effectively as a community.
Yeah, got a couple super chats here. Hole Puncher tip 25 cents. What is a good NAT VPS service? Payable next bar. Please put the link in the comment section. Which comment section? The private one or the YouTube one? I think if I know what you're asking for is a VPN that lets you escape being natted. Incognet.io. They have you can buy VPSs from them to do your own WireGuard proxy, or you can buy a VPN directly that's WireGuard, and they accept Monero. They're pretty good for that. Neil's tipped $1.23 to all open hardware manufacturers. Free advertising on my UpSec blog if you make open hardware laptops. Clear lack of open hardware in the privacy market. This is true. A lot of these companies that offer laptops that come with Linux, like System 76 and Nova Custom, they do rebranded Tongfang computers, which tend to be lower quality compared to something like Framework, where they make their own in-house design, which is a lot harder to do, costs a lot more money, but the end product is much better. Open hardware, CPUs in particular. Oh, that's even more specific. It's one of the main missing pieces I want to fit in my blog. Good to know. Thanks, Neilist. Drunk Dial tipped $1. Should stream Monerotopia on Rumble and maybe Odyssey, and flood the comment section of shows like Luke Rudkowski's The Best Political Podcast and Liberty Lockdown with topical solutions. They just praised Monero a few days ago. Oh, that's cool to know. Interesting to know. Monero is gaining even more traction with these libertarian type podcasters. I'll look into seeing if we can stream to Rumble and Odyssey as well if people like those platforms better. So it's not just limited to ones like YouTube and Twitch right now. Thanks.
Can I just say, for the bag holders of Monero who have been patiently waiting for people to appreciate, like on a historical scale, I mean, you are so early, like you are so early, and that doesn't justify being angry or impatient, right? So it often takes people a lot longer to adopt a clearly better technology than you may appreciate, right? Because when you're on the bleeding edge, when you're on the avant-garde, when you're early to something like this, it's easy to get jaded, right? Don't become that guy that's just like flaming everybody on Twitter or whatever, like, you're a blah, blah, blah retard for not using Monero for this and that and whatever. Just a simple, have you considered Monero?
Even if you're correct.
Yeah, even if you're correct, gentle. And I'm not like famous for how gentle I am, so I'm speaking to myself as well, right? Like I can be a very aggressive individual sometimes. I'm working on it. I really am. I'm sorry for those of you who endure my my bust out the guillotines rants all the time, right? Yeah, Alaskanon is very gentle. Thanks. You just tell my wife that. She needs to know that there are those out there who believe that I can be gentle. But just know that being early is a good thing, and be glad you're early and be patient. Okay, because now with the Luke Rudkowski's or however you say his name coming into the world, I mean, hold on tight. Your bags very well may pump, you know? So, and make sure you're loading up with what you can afford. I mean, follow Bawdy's advice too. Like, don't go all in on Monero or anything like that. I mean, be smart with your money. I mean, there's a reason, you know, he donates his precious time every week to making sure that you don't do something stupid, you know, but like keep your bags growing slowly over time. And, you know, you very well may find one day, I don't know, like Elon Musk telling everybody like, we need privacy, XMR, and then all the Dogecoiners move their $1 trillion market cap over here or something. Who knows?
Yeah. Don't buy Monero, earn Monero. Don't sell Monero, buy stuff. I agree. And that's the thing too. Monero is the crypto of spending. It's the one I've used the most to actually purchase stuff online. And I think that will remain the core focus, is the usage, even as the price goes up. Thank you so much, Alaskanon, for filling in our guest segment. You are an absolute legend, sir. You are awesome. You do some awesome work, and you are very good at reaching people and helping them understand why something like this matters, helping onboard them. And I got to see that in action at Monerotopia. And you yourself, some people probably didn't know, but Alaskanon had a big part in helping with Monerotopia behind the scenes. So thank you very much for doing that. And yeah, I guess with that being said, we can go ahead and move into the viewers on stage segment. All right.
It's the Viewers on Stage segment. It's that time where we invite you, the viewers, up on stage to comment on anything you've heard so far today, ask the guest a question, or maybe talk about one of the news topics. Come on down.
All right, pulling everyone up here.
So speaking of flaming and whatever, I do have something to bring up. There is a project that abandoned their F-Droid repository this week because somebody from the team said that it broke and that they weren't, from what I understood, they weren't going to fix it. So instead of trying to fix it, they decided to go with this other centralized app store that can be pressured by the government or whoever to remove their app, or remove their app for political reasons. Because I had to ask, I was like, what is this? So I looked into it, and I'm like, this is centralized, just like the Google Play or Apple App Store, and it can be pressured. And it upset me. I'm like, why would this project do this?
Okay. I'll say a couple things on this. For one, we didn't just like abandon it just because we wanted to. There's an issue. I'm going to have to open some issues on the appropriate repositories, but there's basically a problem with updating Flutter for our app, causing it to suddenly stop working with the F-Droid server. The F-Droid server does some kind of APK analysis when you update an app that's on a repository. And this analysis dependency, this analyzer called Android Guard, I think, is throwing some errors that have issues that have been open for a while. I guess the problem never was actually fixed. And we can't simply just go back to a different Flutter version. We had to upgrade the Flutter version for some specific reasons. And it's important. It's somewhat important to keep that updated anyway, because certain versions of Flutter are only supported for a certain amount of time. And so we did try to fix it. We tried to do several things, and none of it worked, unfortunately. And at this moment, we just aren't able to update. So at the moment, it's been deprecated. Unless we can make it work in the future, there's no immediate desire for us to have it again. I mean, we can't use it, right? So it wasn't just a decision that we decided to simply abandon it. It's that, well, it stopped working for us. But secondly, the way in which we use F-Droid doesn't totally make sense because it's designed. The way in which we're using it right now, it literally just copies the same APKs from our GitHub releases and redistributes that on F-Droid. And I understand the one benefit of that is that you can connect to our server directly instead of connecting to GitHub as a third party that's like, owned by Microsoft, right? And to fill that in, we're going to try to mirror our GitHub repo with the releases on like Gitty or like Codeberg, right? And Obtainium officially supports pulling from like Codeberg and Gitty based instances of a Git service. And so doing that would effectively do the same thing of using our raw repo on F-Droid. And there were a couple other issues that would have caused us to have to recreate our F-Droid repository anyway. So we decided to just try to move forward without it. But yeah, for Crescent, I mean, okay, yeah, it's a centralized third party, but the thing is, our F-Droid repo was centralized also. It was one server. It was owned by Cake Labs LLC. If a Crescent was forced to stop distributing Cake Wallet, well, then in a way we would probably be forced to as well. I mean, we're a US-based company. Well, it's based in the US, based in another country as well. But we wouldn't be able to distribute it on that same server. It would be better yet, and like avoiding all this. In the future, we'll probably have an APK. So if you download a standalone APK, it'll probably be self-updatable, right, with our own server. And that would be the answer to all of this, is just to have the APK be self-updatable. That'll tell you when there's an update, and you have the option to install it now or later. So I hope that answers some of your frustration. It wasn't that we just decided to do it. It's because we ran into issues and we spent a lot of time trying to fix it, and we only have limited bandwidth. So,
okay. So the one thing with Obtainium is, from what I understand, and I haven't used this for a while, so it could be different now. So the last time I used it, it had trouble with distinguishing multiple apps on a single repository. So if you had like Cake,
yeah. So now I think that's been fixed, because if I and I did a short video, and I actually put a Obtainium short tutorial on our Cake guides and docs website as a direct upgrade path from the F-Droid. So if you were using the F-Droid version of Cake Wallet, you can install the same APK from GitHub as long as it's the specific Arch version, right? So if you have a newer phone, then you'll want to do the V8, the ARM64 V8A version. If you use that on Obtainium, it will ask you to either select Monero.com or Cake Wallet, right? So you can select either one, and it will pull the appropriate APK. And if that doesn't work, if you have a problem with that, let me know, and I will take a look at it.
Okay, and then one other final thing. Why doesn't Cake synchronize in the background? So like for example, if I have Monerojo open and I lock my screen, it continues to synchronize. Or if I put it in the background, but I leave it open in the app switcher and like switch to Firefox or something like that, it continues to synchronize. But Cake does not. Why is that?
We used to have that feature, actually, background sync. The way in which it was implemented was not very correct. We were using Android Work Manager when we really should be registering an Android service. So that's going to have a rewrite. Hopefully early next year, that'll come back into Cake Wallet. It'll be done much better, because the way it was done before, it was very prone to file corruption due to the OS killing the background service. But if you use an Android service, you can have it set up properly so the OS won't actually kill that process. So that'll come back, and it'll be a lot more customizable for how it works. It'll be much more reliable. And we'll have that hopefully Q1 next year.
Okay, I'm very much looking forward to that.
Same. That'll be a nice feature. And the one thing to note is that will be Android only, and that'll be the first feature that'll set the Android version apart from iOS. So the Android version of Cake Wallet will be superior, simply because it's not possible to do that on iOS in the same way on Android. Apple's much more restrictive about what apps are allowed to do what in the background, because it's Apple, of course. And also Apple recently is forcing us to remove certain Cake Pay from within the app itself. So iOS won't have Cake Pay inside the app anymore. Apple's forcing us to remove that.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah, right. So Android, I guess technically
stepped on their walled garden, bro. They don't like
Exactly.
people making money without them making money. So
That's right. And there's no way we can integrate Apple Pay whatever with the Cake Pay because you're using crypto, right? It doesn't make sense to do that anyway, and you wouldn't want to do that. So Android version of Cake Wallet's already the superior version compared to iOS. So that's just how it is. Unfortunately, there's nothing around that because iOS and Apple products are a very locked down system. You can't just sideload apps like you can on Android. So,
well, I appreciate a deeper explanation for what happened with the F-Droid repository because that was very, very upsetting.
Yes. Yeah, I probably should have been a bit more clear on that. But yeah, that's basically the reason why.
This is one of the places where attack on all fronts philosophy. I mean, normally you want to concentrate your forces, but in this particular battle space, like I approve of the fact, for whatever my worthless opinion is worth, right? But I approve of the fact that Cake is taking a stance of emphasizing usability. But that said, there's a huge weakness in the fact that, like GitHub is centralized and owned by Microsoft to various degrees, and where people get their apps from and so on. These are issues that go way further than just Monero wallets, right? That the tech community needs to take a good hard look at what the real solutions to these things are.
Sounds like your mic has been fuzzy.
I apologize. I've been coughing on it.
Rip.
Oh, by the way, XMR Bazaar is now 87.5% the size of Moneromarket.io after just over 6 months.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a lot. It's a lot of usage. There's another one that showed up recently. I think it's Monero.market. Yeah, Monero.market. So there's 3 now. There's Moneromarket.io, there's XMR Bazaar, and then there's Monero.market. So this is becoming a thing. Monero marketplaces. Multiple, not just one.
And this is what we like to see because this is circular economy. These marketplaces are competing with each other to get users.
And Shortwave Silver will sell you soap for XMR.
He will indeed. Speaking of which, he needs to update his prices because the Monero price rise took him way the heck off guard. He was not expecting that to occur.
Your prices seem a little high lately there, buddy.
Yeah, the price rise took him way off guard. And so normally he uses the 365-day moving average, but he might have to use a shorter one or go with something else, at least temporarily, until the prices stabilize out again.
Just to avoid using the word dollar, just say tether.
USDC.
But
Yeah,
Bawdy could write you a script, right? Like this is the shortwave price analysis script for how you can buy soap on XMRBazaar.com.
True.
I really am trying to shut up, guys, so somebody else should.
Anyone else want to chime in on anything? We've got Ulysses, we've got Shane, we have Bawdy as well.
Yeah, I'll pipe up.
How's it going, Ulysses?
Yeah. Doing good. I'm still wandering Mexico, and I was passing through a market in Tepoztlan, which is a little town like an hour south of Mexico City. And oddly enough, I ran into one of the vendors that was at Monerotopia in Huerto, and
really?
I was able to buy stuff with Monero from those guys. They're still happily accepting it, and
that's amazing.
They had the mug out, and they had the bag, the swag bag, and all that good stuff too. So it was that was great to see.
Was this? This was like a store for the vendors that were at the conference.
Yeah, these were some of the local vendors that were at the market at Puerto Roma, and I think they're based out of Tepoztlan, so they were at their local market, and still using Monero. So
that's awesome.
How far?
I really hope Doug is hearing this right now because that was.
You'd be obsessed. I mean, that was his goal. Yeah, that was basically his goal.
How far is that from Puerto Roma?
From Puerto Roma, I mean,
it's like an hour south.
Yeah, like Huerto Roma is a little bit further north in Mexico City, so maybe like hour and 40 minutes, hour and 30 minutes.
Well, the
But
reason I was asking is because I just wanted to see how much the vendors were spreading out throughout Mexico.
Yeah, well, these guys said they're local in this town, Tepoztlan. So I mean, this is their local market that they participate in, and yeah, so they were there, and yeah, I bought some peyote and some incense and essential oil stuff, medicine things, and yeah, happy to take Monero.
All of those guys that kept their Monero from the conference got such a nice little price pump.
Oh,
like,
he was proper chuffed about that. He was really like, yeah, this is cool.
Now they really understand.
Yeah.
And part of me wonders. I never even looked. Like, I wonder how much more it pumped against like pesos. I wonder if pesos it was even bigger. I could look that up right now, actually.
Well, and it's
That's
also
awesome.
nice.
That's super cool to hear.
I picked up a couple of these little Spanish, I guess, flyers, brochure things. I think the Moneronodo guys put it together.
The
and
Monero
like
Garden, right?
I think so. Yeah, Monero Garden guys. And yeah, that's been super fucking helpful because like when I've come across like some vendors that I try to ask like, hey, are you guys interested in crypto or Monero or something like that? And like the handful of people that are interested, it's nice to be able to give them that thing about like, look, this can explain it way better than I can, in Spanish. So it's nice having a handful of those things to hand out while I'm traveling around Mexico.
For sure. That's super cool that you found one of the same vendors and they're still taking Monero. That's awesome. Yeah, Doug will definitely be happy about that. Because that was kind of the intended purpose, is that he onboards them, and it's a nice thing for us who are at the conference that we can buy stuff with Monero. And it was really cool. I bought several things with Monero, met some of the local vendors, pretty awesome. But the end goal, I'm sure, was so that they would continue to accept it later on. And I guess that was success for at least this one vendor in particular.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's actually another vendor there too. She also said like she'd be happy to take Monero. So
that's cool. That's awesome. And I guess the one challenge, I don't know if it was fully covered, is offboarding for them, off ramping, if they have to.
Well, I make sure to say like, hey, there's always people that are going to be interested in selling Monero for pesos or vice versa. So, like, and I try and give them my contacts saying like, hey, at some point in the future, I may want to, buy or sell pesos for Monero. So like, let's please stay in touch, and, it's not going to be, I'm going to be ringing you up every week, but it's like, I'm building a network of people that I've met that use it, that will be interested in using it in the future.
Cool. Of actually peer-to-peer.
Yeah, actually peer-to-peer organic crypto, I like to call it.
Do they have I know they have Bitcoin ATMs. I don't know if they have ones that support Monero there in Mexico.
Guys, they actually in peso terms they did like a lot better than they would have in USD as well. So they actually got a better price pump as far as denominated in their local currency. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, they made if they had kept, because it was like
I bet they loved that.
150 to 160 during Monerotopia. Now it's sitting nice at 200. That's a pretty solid. And I mean that's like that could be a lot of money if you're running a business that's got thin margins like that, like especially food service businesses. That can be very helpful.
Well, think about all the tips too.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like there was some pretty big tippers. I think Bawdy gave somebody like $250,000 or something like that when it
$250,000 pesos.
750 Solana. Like, here, take this trash.
I will say Solana is nicer if you're into meme coins, just because it's cheap to use. I know that there's problems with it, but Ethereum has
Solana's
become
really
very
good for
expensive.
Monero too. A lot of people I know that gamble on shit coins, as soon as they're done with their Solana gambling, they just move over to XMR. The shit coin to Monero pipeline is strong with the Solana community.
Yeah, Monero's like a safe haven for the gains.
I use Solana and Polygon when I buy USDC from Coinbase to get from. So I go from Coinbase to either Solana or Polygon on a self-custody wallet, and then use Trocador to swap that from into Monero, like immediately. So it's like it's like Coinbase to self-custody Polygon or Solana, immediately to Trocador from Monero.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, you know the Instagram to OnlyFans pipeline or whatever, like that was kind of what I was alluding to, and now it's like this is the KYC to Monero pipeline right here. People start for the gains and then they end up hooked on the freedom, right? Like,
well, I'd like to hear if there's other people out there that were like, surely like after the excitement of Monerotopia, they've gone forth and like preached the good word and like try to onboard like local to them. I wonder if anybody else has more stories about that.
I had alluded to one just a little bit ago, but actually when I got back, I had a meeting with certain ag product vendors about the circular economy. That's a thing. I've heard a couple of other stories too. People finding ways around the SWIFT system, and I'm going to leave it there because I don't want to get anybody in trouble. That was a result of Monerotopia that didn't exist before. And then there was another one. Swoops had mentioned how there was a bunch of like this backpacker program where there's people going around like spreading the good news and apostolizing the Monero adoption in their local communities as well. And I've also heard stories about some people finding out that they can use Monero for legal fees for certain corrupt government persecutions, I should say, instead of prosecutions. That's a thing that came out of Monerotopia. And this is just the things that I've heard since I left. And then a couple of people who are online vendors, a guy who was there who supports like web-based financial software and stuff like that. He was saying that since Monerotopia, because this was like his first entry into Monero, he's saying that he's been able to convince certain web retailers to consider adopting Monero, and he's been helping them with that. So those will probably come online soon. So it's clearly happening all over the world from what I've heard. Now, obviously, I have kind of like a bias in hearing these things, right? But it's still happening nonetheless.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I like hearing that.
And then people can also go to yuli.xyz and get the coolest available. I heard that website actually will accept Monero, and it's basically a peer-to-peer transaction, so you can get the finest swag in the world, and it's XMR friendly, people.
Yeah, I've been trying to price everything. You know, it's a weird thing for myself, getting out of the mindset of like pricing things in fiat. Like, I just want to get to the point where I'm only thinking in Monero, and like I just happen to be using.
Then the minute you do the price bumps, and it's like,
yeah, exactly. I love to price things directly in Monero.
I think it's cool though, because it's like, you know, the price will reflect how long somebody's been in Monero, right? So if somebody's been in from the get-go, right, and they've got stacks and stacks of it, right, you know, and then like later on, let's say it does get like ridiculous, it goes to the moon, and then all of a sudden it's just like, well, I'm not going to change my pricing. This is for the old school early adopter Monero.
So you get
Well,
arbitraged out of existence.
I was going to say you have to update your prices because otherwise nobody will buy from you. I have to update my prices here probably soon. I'm debating on waiting until like the beginning of January just to see what happens with the price between now and then. I don't think it's going to go back. It doesn't seem like it's going to, but I'm thinking about holding off just a little bit longer to make sure, and then I'll probably move it up some. I'm thinking about going to 180 because if I do, that's 10% away from the 200. And like the 200 it is currently, and that was the resistance point for such a long time that I figure it would act as good support. So I might go to might go up to 180 and leave it there for a while.
Well, one thing to consider, and I don't think that people should be making their decisions based on this necessarily, but historically speaking, Monero does better on the tail end of these bull markets than it does at points like right now. So it's going to be interesting to see if the history repeats itself in light of the fact that it just pumped, right? Like, or maybe it just did it early, or who knows? But
Yeah,
All
I think
right,
it's.
guys. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say it's a bit of wishful thinking for me, just because I like being lazy. I'm like, once I set the price, I don't want to have to change it.
I have mine set to where I want to change it every 4 months, but this pump is going to have to cause me to do an emergency update because I just reset it on December 1st, and my next price update would have been April 1st, and that's going to be too long, so I'm going to have to do an emergency change that I wasn't expecting to have to do. But normally I try to only change it every 4 months. That way a price is going to stay the same that long, and you can guarantee that if you need to buy, say, a bottle of soap from me in January, it's going to be the same price in January 1st as it is on February 1st and on March 1st. That way you're not like wondering, oh, how much am I going to have to pay for this time?
There's something so deliciously Fight Club about everything that Shortwave says. It's so funny to me. But even the verbiage, right? I have to do an emergency price adjustment. like he's so far ahead of the curve in this like line of thinking where it's like it's an emergency. Like we.
I mean, you know, like you said, doing the 365-day average it's worked for a while. You could do that for quite a while, and it would be the same. But now Monero has our resident stable coin has depegged to the upside.
And it's
maybe
not like I'm
just
not going to
running commodities. You know, maybe that's where commodities are going to be in 20 minutes. You know.
You know, I might have to use like the 50-day moving average for a while until it catches back up or something. Like, there's no way I can justify my prices being at the 365 with this pump. So if I have to go to like the 50 or the 30 or something like that, I'll just have to do that for a while. I'm a big boy. I can handle it.
He can weather the emergencies.
All right.
It's just so cool seeing what's happening right now. I don't know about you guys, but this is so cool to watch. Like what happened after Monerotopia, and just like it, you know, I mean, I'm not necessarily saying that they're like causally related, but it totally just breathed new life into this whole movement, you know?
All right, guys. Anyone else, anything else they want to throw out there?
Nope, I'm good for this week.
All right. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, I'm all Monero'd out for now for at least 20 minutes.
For at least 20 minutes. Then you'll be ready to start preaching again.
Well, then somebody's going to come to my door and they're going to hear it all, like the whole spiel. Have you heard the good news of the Jehovah's Witnesses? Let me tell you the good news, okay, about Monero and all the freedom, right? I legit like live this. I'm not even kidding. Like, it's not just here. Like every time I go buy a coffee, every time And it's like, I feel bad for my wife. Like, she's literally like Monero-chan, right? She's all in, and even she's just like, oh, here we go again. They don't care. Like, it's, here we go again. It's like we have to plan out when we leave to go do something to add the 30 minutes of Jake ranting about Monero, right? Like, it's built into our schedules and everything. Like, I can't help myself.
That's awesome. See you, Tux.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. I guess
Have
I'll
a
go
good
ahead
week.
and end it here. Have a great weekend, everyone.
bless.
See you next time.
Thank you for joining us on this week's Monerotopia episode. We stream live shows every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. You can find and subscribe to our show on YouTube and Odyssey, or listen to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or Stitcher. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or join us in the Monerotopia Telegram group. See you all next week.